Call the regular meeting of the Pennington County Commission to order. Just want to point out that we try to go through the agenda that we adopt in the order that it is, but in order to, at times, we need to move some items up to fill a gap if we've had a short presentation or something that needs a better timeline. So just be aware that may not completely follow it, but we certainly try to. Speaker request forms are in the back of the room along with agendas for today. If you'd like to speak on any item, we would ask that you take a speaker request form, fill it out, and return it to Holly that's on your right-hand side over here. Thank you. We will now have a moment of silent reflection and the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 4, review and approve agenda.
So moved.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Hadcock, a second by Commissioner Lassiter. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Consent calendar is next. Holly Hennies.
Good morning, Commissioners. For public notice, the Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and vote of the board. Items may be removed from the consent agenda, I'm tongue-tied this morning, and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. Today's consent agenda contains the following items. Approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of June 1st, 2021. Approval of the minutes from the special meetings of June 2nd at 8:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. Number 7 is to approve the renewal of the retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota Farm wine license for the Marina at Sheridan Lake LLC and to release license upon payment of appropriate property taxes. Number 8 is to assign the 2021 budgeted long-term reserve accumulation in the general fund for the fire on the long-term reserve in the amount of $100,000. Number 9 is to acknowledge the recommendation for appointment of Ms. Sandy Brockhouse to the Planning Commission for a term of 2 years. Number 10 is to approve the letter of support for the South Dakota Network LLC, which is the South Dakota Network Tower Construction Project. Number 11 is to declare 8 Motorola XTLS 2500 radios as surplus property for the purpose of donation to the Box Elder Volunteer Fire Department. And finally, number 12 is to recognize and thank the volunteers for the month of May 2021 for Human Resources and the Fire Administration.
At this time, is there any members of the public that wish to have any of these items removed from the consent calendar so they could be discussed? Seeing none, does the commission wish to have any of these items removed?
Move approval of 5 through 12 on the consent.
I've got a motion by Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner Roskinek to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Regular agenda items. First item we have is the basically reappointments to the Planning Commission. We have 2 positions there. Sandra Rundy's term and Jim Coleman's term were both up. I see Sandra is in the room. Is Jim on Zoom also? So we have both of them here. Sandra, anything that you would like to say or any questions that the commission has of Sandra relative to this? Sandra has served for a number of years on the Planning Commission.
Hi, yeah, my name is Sandy Grundy, and I served 3 years, and, I would like to go another 3 years, and I would hope that my 40 years' experience in the world of commercial real estate has been a benefit. For the most part, I've enjoyed the Planning Commission. There's parts that have been challenging, but anyway, I hope that you'll allow me to continue. Does anybody have any questions of me?
Questions of Sandy?
I just want to say, Sandy, thank you for stepping up to the plate for another 3 years.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Sandy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandy.
Oh, good, thank you.
You bet.
Yep.
Jim, any comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, just to comment that in spite of the fact that I may be the oldest member of the Planning Commission for some time, I am still equally enthusiastic about the process and the job. So, and I'm looking forward over the next 3 years to bringing together what I see as a rather spectacular development and growth of Rapid City and its environment. With the broader comprehensive plan in the county. And I see that as a challenge and also a distinct opportunity. And I do want to say that I have been continually impressed with the professionalism and effectiveness of staff throughout the county in being able to achieve the goals and accomplishments that they have over the last several years that I've been on the Planning Commission. So I look forward to hopefully another productive 3 years with both them and with you folks.
Any questions or comments for
Mr. Chair.
Jim? Commissioner,
And then I'm
LaCroix.
going to make a motion and I'd like a follow-up if I could.
okay,
I'd move to appoint Sandra Rundy and Jim Coleman to the Planning Commission, each for a term of 3 years.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner LaCroix, second by Commissioner Hadcock. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I just wanted to say to not only Sandra, but Jim, I really appreciate, as commissioners, we alternate every other month. So we end up about twice a year being on the Planning Commission. And our Planning Commission is very well-rounded. And I have to say, I learned something from each and every one of those members after serving a month on them with them. And so I appreciate you guys' talent and your knowledge, and I'm learning from you every time I participate on that board.
Thank you, Lloyd. I too want to echo that. Both Sandy and Jim have been very viable people on the Planning Commission. We appreciate the service that you're willing to do and continue to do. And the Planning Commission, as I've served on it now in May and in June this year, the Planning Commission has some, members of it have some very good questions, ideas relative to the things that come before them. I just appreciate your service. Thank you much. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Thanks, Jim and Sandy.
Thank you.
Next item is the, number 14 is presentation on a discretionary formula request for industrial and commercial property. And call on, okay, Mr. Bruin, okay. Identify yourself and
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Matt Bruner with Elevate Rapid City. Good morning, Chairman Drews and members of the Pennington County Commission, and thank you all for having us today. As I mentioned, I'm Matt Bruner with Elevate Rapid City. I'm the Economic Development Director. Elevate, for those of you that don't know, is one organization that provides the function of the Chamber of Commerce, the Economic Development Partnership, the Economic Development Foundation, and Ascent Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Our vision is, our mission is to increase, let me start over. Our mission is to elevate the Rapid City region for all, with our vision to make the Black Hills a place that people want to be. Today, we are here to invite you to adopt a resolution implementing a discretionary formula on industrial and commercial places in Pennington County. And I'm a little new to this. Just scroll, okay. So what is a discretionary formula? A discretionary formula, by definition, is property tax abatement for applicable new structures and additions for up to 5 years. The formula can be implemented by any county in the state of South Dakota by the passage of a resolution. It's important to note that this resolution can be changed at any time. A municipality may also implement a discretionary formula if the county does not already have one established. An example of that is Wall. We do have Lily Stone, the Economic Development Director, here today if you'd like to ask any questions. So, other counties and industrial commercial discretionary formulas that have been adopted in place around here, I'm going to kind of walk you guys through what that looks like at a statewide level. So most surrounding communities have already offered an incentive for industrial or commercial structures. In your packet that you received last week, I would invite you to look at the Department of Revenue Discretionary Formula Tracker. Now, 59 of the 66 South Dakota counties have already adopted discretionary formulas. Pennington County is one of 3 that has not adopted a commercial or an industrial formula. 56 of those other counties have adopted these incentives and are therefore automatically more competitive with their tax incentive packages. Now, the remaining 2 counties are Charles Mix and Gregory, which we don't view as peers within the state. So what does this mean? Although not every one of these counties are direct competition, the absence of a commercial and industrial incentive is blatant when we market ourselves as a pro-growth community. Next, I'm going to take you through a case that's kind of close to home. So Meade County readopted a zero across the board formula in July of 2020. That zero across the board abatement was actually implemented though back in 2010 and has had great success. Now I've listed a couple of minutes here, some bullet points from their minutes in July. I'm not going to belabor the points, but what I will say is that as you're looking through here, you can see the importance that the discretionary formula has played in Meade County, which is just across the border from us. It is our time for Pennington County to be more competitive when it comes to discretionary formulas for Meade County and against other surrounding communities. Our proposal. So we are proposing a baseline discretionary formula. What's highlighted in dark blue or in bold is what we're adding to the resolution. I'll read both of those quickly. Any new industrial structure, including a power generation facility or an addition to an existing structure, as well as any new commercial structure or any addition to an existing structure. Now, the third item right here is for the affordable housing, which there already is a discretionary formula, and we're not asking for any changes to that. So the breakout would be as follows. Year 1 would be 20%, year 2 would be 40%, year 3 would be 60%, year 4 would be 80%, and then by year 5 it would be back to 100% in whole. Now please note, this is all in the resolution as part of the packet again that we provided last week. Also, we have Tom Johnson, with the president and CEO of Elevate, as well as Anna Hayes, our public policy director, here to answer any questions. So why do we care? Elevate supports a diverse portfolio of incentives to offer businesses wanting to come to or expand to the Rapid City region. So this, by implementation, helps ease the pressure on TIFs, which can be complex and frankly can sometimes not always be available. It also creates a more equal opportunity incentive, meaning it's a more accessible tax incentive right now that doesn't again exist. And then third, the baseline formula ensures that school districts are not impacted. If you have more questions about this bullet point, I direct you to the DOR information, again in your packet. In there, it explains the impact on the state aid to education funding. So finally, Pennington County needs this tool to compete. Within the economic development side, 33 of the 33 RFIs that I have received in the past 10.5 months have explicitly asked for this exact incentive. Developers and real estate agents choose property over the county line to access their competitive tax abatements. And then last, but definitely not least, as we've seen by the Meade County minutes, it can be a proven deal breaker for businesses wanting the best location in the hills to locate. With that, I'm going to pause and look to Chairman Drews to see if you want to have any questions or if you'd like to have the community support come up and speak next.
Any questions by the commission at this point?
Yes,
Commissioner
Chairman.
Adcock.
Bottom line is I like growth, but in some cases, do we have the infrastructure in order to give those incentives and to be able to support what we're saying for commercial. I mean, the water, the roads, and the things in that we have in Pennington County is one of our biggest issues right now. We're having that in Rapid City and other places where, you know, that's a huge issue. So to give incentives in an area, like I said, that we are looking at in Pennington County, we're having some major infrastructure areas that we cannot support at this time, meaning trying to do these big developments that we're trying to do. We just don't have the water and the the roads and things to support that. So I'm not against this. I'm just trying to figure out where we're going and what is our big plan for our comprehensive plan, and is this going to work into that plan by putting commercial and giving incentives when we don't have the infrastructure to support what we are trying to move forward on. I like business, I like growth, but a lot of areas get in trouble that way. They don't have the infrastructure and they start doing this and they get ahead of themselves to the point where, okay, the other people that are around them have been affected because of the water that these developments cost or these. And here's the thing. I know water for commercial isn't a big, huge deal in a sense because they use less. I have commercial buildings, but there's still all the other infrastructure that makes that difference. So have you guys thought about any of this before you did your discretionary formula? Does it include upsizing, upgrading things that need to be done in the county with this discretionary formula with your commercial development?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please answer.
Thank you for the question, Ms. Hadcock. It's one, so when you're talking about development, these discretionary formulas that we are looking to implement would only be for commercial and industrial. They would not benefit like a residential development,
Right.
which you're right, that would be much more, I guess, incentive or infrastructure heavy.
Right. Some of that is, and then depends on what kind of development you're talking about and what kind of commercial you're talking about. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because you could do a pretty big development that with commercial that would take a lot of with roads and drainage and different things like that that are huge that are affecting other people in the areas too. So just food for thought on infrastructure. When I was in the city, the tips that I agreed with were they were putting in infrastructure with those tips that were upgrades like sewer,
Right.
water, lift stations, different stuff like that. That's the only reason why I agreed, because we were having major issues back in the day when I first was on city council with lots of development. It was great, but there was affecting water and sewer and other areas by not upgrading or oversizing, and then later on cost the taxpayers to fix those things that other people were making money on. How about that?
No, you're right.
So-
I would say this isn't going to replace TIFs, and TIFs by nature should be the ones that help with the infrastructure.
Right.
At this moment, I don't think I have a great answer for you with regards to the infrastructure, because I know that is an ongoing question as well as a concern, not just in Rapid City, but Pennington County, as you pointed out.
Right. And the residences, sir, would get the water first before the commercial development in those areas if we ended up having any kind of issue with water and different things. So the other issue was just, I had it in my head and lost it. Oh, can you TIF and can you use incentive both at the same time?
Yes, you can. That does add a little bit of complexity, but you can stack them.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Matt, thanks for your presentation. You know, my concern on this is not that I don't support this type of thing. My concern is a blanket approval over the whole thing without any oversight from the commission. You know, someone just comes in and every person that comes in can do it. With the TIF, it goes through a great amount of review and a process and so the taxpayers know what's happening, and not only that, but the decision makers know whether it's right or wrong. if there was an oversight on this, I think this would be a great tool for the toolbox for the community as a whole. But I think the oversight needs to be not for a blanket for everybody. If it had a process that came to this commission on an application process to where we could review it and see if it makes sense, hey, and then we can justify to the taxpayers why we are approving it and who it's for. That's more along the lines of what I'm looking for, not just a blanket. You come in and apply for it and get it. I don't think that's fair to the taxpayer base.
Point, Lloyd.
That's a good point. Commissioner Roskinek.
The point that I was going to make out that we were talking about infrastructure. So if I recall, out there on, it's at North Elkville, we have a brand new, it's going to be a combination light industrial, commercial. The businesses that are looking out there, I can tell you firsthand, they're looking for incentives. I believe there's been lots sold out there, and according to the bylaws, that building's got to go up within 1 year. If you
I think I know what you're talking about,
Right,
yes.
and across the street, you got the I-90 Business Park, and then you got Rushmore Regional Industrial Park. But this program wouldn't be just limited to Rapid City. If somebody wanted to build a new commercial facility in Hill City, they would also qualify for this or
Correct.
Keystone.
Yeah, it would be countywide.
So, I recognize it as a good tool, just we just have to sit down and probably maybe take a look at the budget, which is coming down the pipeline before we make any really solid decisions today.
Mr. Chairman,
So, Commissioner Laster.
I just have a couple of questions to you, Matt. Thank you, Chairman. Couple of questions for you, Matt, and I'm also in the same line. We obviously need to do economic development. It's desired here. I mean, I remember the presentation that Mr. Wester gave us, all the businesses that want to come out this way to the Black Hills, and we talked after that particular area. So I'm also in agreement that, we obviously have to pay attention to what we're doing for growth and development out here, also supporting economic development. But out of the numbers that you gave us, and I don't see a number here, whenever you said it was a proven deal breaker for businesses wanting the Black Hills as a location, how many of those businesses told you that we're not coming there because you don't have a discretionary formula?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Matt, go ahead.
I would prefer to get that answer back to you after I review the RFIs. I apologize, I don't have that exact number. I would say, obviously, when it's 33 out of 33, and I can tell you right now, we've only won 2 of those RFIs. So I know that the other 31, it's not directly because we don't have a discretionary formula, but it doesn't have us on a level playing field against the rest of the state.
And follow up to that, Mr. Chairman, what was that total impact for construction cost or costs that could have been coming to this side of the state?
Just to clarify, I think you're asking for the capital expenditure?
Yes, sir.
So of those 33 RFIs, we're looking at over $500 million.
Okay. And hearing that they actually can stack with the TIF, my biggest concern is kind of like Commissioner Hadcock says, is, we can do a discretionary formula, but if the infrastructure is not there, then the county is basically having to now suck that up and deal with that and then pass that cost along to the community. A lot of our TIFs right now with the developments that are going on, they are developing that infrastructure. So, that's going to be the concern. So I think I'm in line with what Lloyd was saying as well. I think we should be able to see, just like the TIFs, there should be a process so that we can see that it's been vetted to make sure that all of the avenues are going to be looked at to make sure that 5 years down the road, we're not having a flood problem or we're having a sewage problem or a water problem. So I'm supportive of the idea. I think it just needs to be kind of refined a little bit to where it works to benefit the county and the taxpayers as well.
Chairman.
Commissioner Hadcock.
So you guys know, you said there's 56 counties. So on those 56 counties, it'd be kind of interesting to see how many times this was used. Maybe you have, and maybe I didn't see it in your packet. You have 56 counties. How many times has this discretionary formula been used in each of those counties? And then I'd like to look at that and see how much is affected from the commercial development, the residential, meaning how much did it impact the mill levy or anything on those developments. If it's 1 or 2, you already know it's not going to affect it that bad. But in other areas, like I said, we're making a huge break for commercial to put those tax bases onto basically people that pay, residential. So how much is that affecting it? Is it enough to go, okay, this is crazy, or this is really good? Because later on in 5 years, that, just like a TIF, the property's worth 50,000 when it first started because there's no development. Now it's worth 20 million. So that's why I said that 5-year discretionary might be worth it, for the taxpayers in the long run too. So I kind of like to do that comparable of what it started and how it affected, and then how much it actually brought forward and actually helped the taxes for other people based on that commercial development, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Matt, go ahead.
that's a great question, Commissioner Hadcock. So I would say, and I would be more than willing to prepare some of that. I think we should probably consider similar sized counties.
Yes, sir.
And just to clarify, if a property tax abatement is adopted,
Right.
it's automatically applied.
Okay.
So it's not something that you would have to apply for like a TIF.
Right.
It would just occur when the project triggers that.
But for us to, like Lloyd said, for us to agree with that, maybe there's some kind of process so it automatically, like you said, gives that abatement, but it also has a formula for, does it fit the infrastructure? Does it fit this? Does it fit that? In order to put it in that area. Some areas can support commercial development for infrastructure right now, and some areas can't. So depending on, makes sense?
That makes complete sense.
Like, the TIF, we always look, okay, how's it going to benefit? What's it going to benefit? We're not all about Pennington County. We're about the cities too, obviously,
Sure.
from Box Elder and others. But we also have to have, like I said, my huge thing is infrastructure. That infrastructure is there and that it's not going to affect the other people around it. And how much does it help us in the long run? It's a business. We're in business as well as commissioners to make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck for the taxpayers, but also taking care of them in the long run, the long term, the 5-year term where that infrastructure supports them. They don't come back and say, okay, now you've done this huge commercial development, look what it's done. Or they go, wow, this is pretty exciting. You guys, took 50,000 to 20 million in 5 years. That's pretty amazing. So some of the questions I think need to be answered for me to move forward, I should say 1 of 5. But I think it can be used in a very positive way if we can just kind of look at some of the other areas that everybody has talked about today and then move forward on it, sir.
Well, I think you'll find that it probably ends up being a net positive when it comes back to the property tax, which is the goal at the end of the day. Second point, and we do have some community members in support. I was hoping that maybe they could have a couple minutes for the floor because they might be able to answer some of those infrastructure or development questions better than myself. And then 3, I would just say, and it's slipping my mind right now. When a discretionary formula is in place, it allows, right now we're seeing, and I work with a lot of real estate agents and developers on a daily basis. And the biggest concern that they have and that we're getting is businesses are excited and wanting to come to the Black Hills, but we just don't have, similar to the residential, we don't have any commercial portfolio or any buildings. And so this discretionary formula would allow for a bit of a runway if a company were to come in and put in a speculative building. Because right now, they almost want to have a bird in hand before anybody will put up a building, which makes complete sense. This gives them a couple of years to put up that building, build up that inventory for here, and then us to continue to allow us to be more attractive and increase that property tax basis.
So would be a good example, maybe run Sioux Falls through. How many times do they use it, what they used it for? Did they have the infrastructure to support it? Where did they put some of them? It'd be kind of nice, for me, I need to see it, to kind of understand it and then see how they did it. And basically the bottom line, why they did it is kind of how, why, and where. And then apply that to Pennington County. So, and how does that work and how does that fit into our infrastructure? How does that fit into, where we want to go in the future? Because when we start building, we kind of ask the cities around us, okay, is this a great idea?
Sure.
Because it's going to eventually, it's going to affect them as well. So that's a huge thing of did it ever affect the next county or the next city by
Right.
doing these and the neighbors?
We're all connected. And I appreciate that. So yeah, the numbers won't lie. We are more than happy at Elevate to prepare that and then share that with the commission.
Well, it'd be good because you could show the community, just off Sioux Falls, how much that has helped those outlining areas and how it's helped them. And did they double up with a TIF to do it in order to do the infrastructure? And maybe we have to do a TIF with that in order to get infrastructure for the surrounding area, which builds that up, which also could put another discretionary formula in a sense in it in another 5 years.
Sure.
Because that's how it kind of works in business, is you can get that. You might have to use some of those tools to start the process for the infrastructure and the commercial development, and then just move forward with it. And maybe that's how they did it. That's why I kind of want to see how they started it and why they did it and how those areas built up, maybe with TIFs, with the infrastructure and commercial development with discretionary formulas.
And that's exactly, from the conversations I've had with other communities and other counties in the state, they typically use the TIF, the developer would, to get the infrastructure and get it shovel-ready. And then TIFs usually, they actually aren't available by state statute to do a lot of the, actually the constructing of the business and the dirt work. So that's when a property tax abatement would come in as an advantage for, say, a real estate developer or a business coming into town.
Yeah, because
So the infrastructure would already be in place, and then that discretionary formula would give them either A, the runway, or B, the incentive, that final little nudge to come.
right.
So Matt, question for you, and I bring this question up because of your language that you have here in your proposal. I was under the impression that if we adopted a discretionary formula such as this, that it was all-inclusive, that we really didn't have any choice. And this is picking up a little bit on what Commissioner LaCroix suggested, that with no oversight. But in your language, you say any new industrial structure, including a power generation facility. Now, apparently there's a reason that you put that in there. I don't know what that reason is. But do we have authority as a commission to not only to include things, but can we exclude when we adopt certain things?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may, could I have Anna Hayes help with that question?
Absolutely. Morning, Anna.
Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Anna Hayes. I'm the Public Policy Director for Elevate Rapid City. So the language that's in the resolution, that is taken straight from the South Dakota Legislature codes. That language cannot be adjusted. We can only include the applicable structures that the legislature has put forward for us. So we cannot, for instance, exclude the power generation facility. We have to take that subsection and apply the discretionary formula for each of those subsections. So I believe I can pull it up if you'd like to see the legislature code. That way you can have all of the, let's see here. This might be the best way to show you. On the Department of Revenue tracker here at the top, it has kind of a summary of each of the possible structures that we are able to include in this resolution. And then the code is referenced at the top here.
We don't have, is that in our packet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it up on the screen if that's helpful. I'll let you drive it.
Did I answer your question? We cannot, for instance, exclude a power generation facility. We have to include that entire language.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
so when they say power generation, I see two major components there. I see real estate, then I see the equipment it takes to generate that power, whether it be solar, hydro, fossil fuel. So then what they're saying is that just the building component of that power generation station would be applicable to this formula?
Commissioner, you're correct.
That gets a little confusing when you say power generation, you're talking real estate and the equipment to generate the power.
Anna, if you have anything else, otherwise I would suggest that you have your community support come forward.
Okay, great. We will have, so a lot of the questions that were brought up here, we can give some pretty comprehensive responses. So I will wait to do that. That way we don't belabor kind of this process. I know you guys are going to need some time, but we will follow up with a comprehensive kind of answer to some of the questions that you have brought up, because we will have those available. And so if that's the case, I will step down and we'll allow some of our folks to come up.
Chairman, one more question.
Commissioner.
Anna, if you would look where they do the formulas, if they TIFed or not with it for the infrastructure, or they TIFed with the formula in like Sioux Falls that I was talking about, Matt, That way we can kind of see how they're applying it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm pretty sure they probably had to do the infrastructure somehow before they just said, I'm going to give everybody a discretionary formula and go ahead and build.
Right. So the same process applies for any business that wants to build in Pennington County, right? They have to come and get approval. All of that still applies. All this does is adds that incentive for the years that they start building to give them that kind of that break on that property tax. So all of the same systems and process you have to go through to build still exist. So we almost brought a chart that helps explain how they interact with TIFs. We can kind of formalize that and include that for next time. I will make note that Minnehaha is unique where they do not have a full county-wide discretionary formula. They have allowed each municipality to choose what works best for them. It's a little bit more complex, but they have seen so much growth out there. I believe each community just need to have their own, kind of determine their own incentive package that worked for who they wanted. So that might take some time. So I will have to call each of those municipalities. So I will try and get that as soon as I can, but we will provide that for Minnehaha.
Well, I think that makes it easier for us because we can look at those different counties and see what that, works best for us. Like you said, they just have their unique way of doing it throughout different counties. And you guys brought some good ideas, but anything with more ideas is even better. But again, I think I'm just looking at the future, that if we have to TIF or do some things, which we have been doing as commissioners to try to build up communities like Box Elder and Hill City in different areas, I believe, I'm one of five, I'll keep saying that. I think it's a great idea, because if we're trying to give incentives, like again, and then do it right, include those TIFs or those infrastructure with it, so.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Hadcock, excuse me. We have definitely used TIFs here a lot stronger than any other community. In Rapid City alone, we've done about 80 plus since the TIFs first were adopted. For an example, and I don't know if this provides any context for you, but Sioux Falls has done close to only around 20. Right. So you kind of had asked how they do the infrastructure. The city will plan where they're going to build, and then they'll build out that infrastructure past the development and say, hey, this is kind of where we're incentivizing you without a TIF, and maybe just for that tax abatement then is what occurs typically out there.
And Matt, that's exactly what I'm thinking for Pennington County. Instead of having different areas all over, maybe our blanket statement is where we want to build, ask the planning, where we're going, what is the future of Pennington County, and where is the place that we want to put that infrastructure and start that discretionary formula area. So if that's what we're going to do. Again, for me, it's the infrastructure, and they did it smart, because now look what's happening for Sioux Falls, and people are coming in as commercial or residential because of the infrastructure, as well because of the cost savings they get. So just putting in that is a huge cost savings for any of them. So anything we could do for infrastructure, that's going to be huge for us. And oversizing on some of our roads, ask our highwayman, Mr. Joe, superintendent. We need to do some oversizing of some roads and stuff too. So we're going to have a lot of development, I think.
Matt, go ahead and welcome your community members up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start with Chris Long.
We don't know that guy.
Morning, Chris.
Hi, guys. Chris Long, KW Commercial Real Estate. I know most of you, but just wanted to speak a couple of real life examples we have going on in the last 6 months. Biggest one is probably industrial development. We have an extreme shortage right now in inventory. We have 2 developers wanting to come into the area, develop speculative products. So kind of like Matt mentioned, they need a little bit of a runway to build this speculative product for the companies to show up. A lot of those RFPs that have come out, we have not been able to meet that need from a supply perspective. And so we know for sure they've gone elsewhere because we don't have the supply. So these developers need a lead time. This discretionary formula is starting larger, getting smaller, helps them get that runway that they need. The other piece, I have a company coming to town tomorrow. I'm trying to get them back to Pennington County. They want to go to Meade County. They want to go East River because of incentives. So I'm trying to get them back. We only have limited tools in our tool belt to make it happen. And kind of like Anna was saying, it doesn't change our our permit process. Doesn't change that. Is this the right place to build? Is this the right zoning to build? It does not change any of that. It just helps provide that little boost that we need. And even before construction costs got to where they were, we've been 10 to 15% higher than East River. And I won't always compare it to East River, but we've always been that way. We need something to help with that. Now with construction costs, it's only getting worse. But having that little benefit really might tip us over the edge to get us there. So a couple of real life things. And
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Next, I'll call Randy Olivier.
Morning.
Good morning. Randy Olivier, Remax Commercial. I know a lot of you guys through Facebook and just on the street. And for those of you I haven't met, I grew up in the Nemo area. There's a little guy in the Forest Service's backyard. So I have a little affinity to that county, but have been in Pennington and the Meade County area for some time. To reiterate kind of what Chris was talking about, I've got a big box looking at Pennington County versus Meade County versus Lawrence County, and these guys actually plan to come in and put their own infrastructure in. You know, they'll work with the city where they can, but the abatement, it just helps. We brought the Pines, I brought Roars Investments. I just talked to Kent Roars this morning. They put up a market rate apartment complex east of the new Walmart in 5th Street, and they were looking at assisted living, adult daycare, memory care kind of thing. And the TIF was good. That would be good. But they always come in and they say, what do you have for TIFs and abatements? That's pretty much what all the guys, that's the first thing on their tongue. And these guys would have put another probably 30 million into our community, but they ended up going to Des Moines, Iowa, which has a 10-year tax abatement. And that's turned their community from kind of the antique store downtown, kind of a slow downtown, to one of the most vibrant communities in the country. So to answer your question, Deb, the process remains the same. The infrastructure still has to be dealt with.
Right.
In Des Moines, for instance, they focus on an area. To speak to the town by town might be a good idea, because each town might say, well, we want infill. Another town might say, hey, we're ready to annex some additional land. So I think that's smart thinking on your part to say, hey, what are some of the other communities doing that are on this program? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just need to adapt what works for Pennington County. But I think every developer I've talked to in the last 8 years, that's been on their question. And a lot of them I never hear from again because we don't have an abatement. So I just think it's important for the growth. They do a 10-year tax abatement, like I said, in Des Moines. They do a 5-year in Meade County. And those are healthy things. Scott Peterson, I was playing phone tag with him today. He built Scott Peterson Motors in Sturgis because of the abatement. He's in Belfouche, and he would not have done that. But that sometimes those points that just cut off some of that edge on those infrastructure costs helped him a lot. So I think it's encouraging that Elevate has brought this, and that you guys are eager to see kind of a continuation of this, and we'd like to see this happen. Hopefully this year. There's a tremendous amount of growth opportunity for us, and Chris was pointing out industrial. Through COVID, it was one of the strong categories nationwide. It was up 18% year over year. So the guys that come in on these requests for information, they're coming in looking for an existing structure, because we're at $40 a foot, right? But then if you have to build, you're at $125 a foot. So they're not even staying here. They're going somewhere else, and they're looking for something that's built up. They're ready to move here. So that would help them, I think, come in and build. So I think that's important. Great category right now. So thank you,
Questions
guys.
for Randy?
Any questions?
Thank you, Randy.
Thanks.
I'm not seeing anyone else that is looking to speak today from the community support, but I will just ask if there's anybody that I'm missing.
Morning,
Mr.
Tom.
Chairman, Tom Johnson, Elevate Rapid City. we've seen in other states that I've worked in when we apply these abatements, and in this case, it's called discretionary formula in South Dakota, where the economic development organization, if you have a process that sort of manages when and if you do these, the economic development agency is front and center and advocating for that. So I guess what I would ask as the CEO of Elevate is if we go down this road where we have a process, as Mr. LaCroix said, and Deb, as you said as well, where we take an individual case by individual case, I would be much more in favor of a process that puts Elevate at the forefront of advocating for that. In other words, the developer or project or company that we're competing with against, say, Sioux Falls, for instance, they would need to come to Elevate and have Elevate advocate on their behalf in front of this group so that we would be at the forefront of saying, hey, commissioners, yes, this is an incentive that we need for economic development and job growth. So I just want to put that out there as something that would be something we would prefer if we do go down that direction, so we would be able to help control what comes to you as a result of what we believe would be good for the county. Thank you.
So Chairman,
Commissioner Hadcock.
so we've been wanting to do economic development in the county, if I'm correct. But we had people that came to us, and it wasn't Elevate. It was just builders and other people. We haven't seen you guys for economic development, at least coming forward and saying, you know, we have this really good project. What can we do for this project? At least I haven't. I haven't went to your meetings, of course, because we have representatives, and long story short, I've got 100 other meetings. But it seems like if it's such a this abatement's coming forward. There's TIFs. Box Elder, we've been helping a lot move forward on TIFs and roads and infrastructure, and now we're going to do some raise grants, and we're going to do some stuff. Tom, where you been? I'm going to be up straight. So then now we have a discretionary formula. I'm not against it, but where has Elevate been in Pennington County?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Deb, that's a great question. I would submit that we've been all over this. First, Commissioner Lassiter does come to our meetings and he hears what we're doing, and that's something that we've been encouraging recently. I've been here a year and a half, and it took me about 7 months to discover that the county wasn't an investor in Elevate, which means that you weren't being invited to the meeting. So it took me a few more months to realize whether you're an investor or not, and I know you guys have been an investor before previously, that you needed to be at the table. So at that point, I reached out to, I think, Commissioner Drews and said, hey, we'd like to have somebody on the county at the Elevate meeting. So it took me a little while, Deb, frankly, to figure it out, because I thought that you guys were included on our board of directors, but you hadn't been. So that's on me. But I would say we have, and I could ask Box Elder, who's here today, to tell you what we've been doing. Box Elder does invest $50,000 a year with us, and so we do and are the economic developer for Box Elder, so they use us as their economic development agency. We've been lobbying for their stuff at the legislature extensively. Nicole Schneider and Mayor Larson can come up and tell you just what we've been doing for them. Matt takes leads out there constantly. We're working on several projects with Box Elder right now. So we've been all over Box Elder. They could come up and testify on our behalf if you'd like.
So just a heads up. So when we're in the city, we didn't know it wasn't that economic didn't do anything. It's when we were in the city, we needed reports. We needed reports so we actually know that Elevate and the rest of the community, in order to report to the community that Elevate is doing a great job in what they're doing. Yeah, you can see it on the TV, you can see it, and some of us, unfortunately, with newspapers, TVs and stuff, we don't do a lot of that. So your community does, and we are the voice for Elevate. We are the voice for the people in our community to come to and say, you know, Tom and those guys, they're doing 5 different things. Because I think you would have got money, or you would get money in our budgets if we had some reports once in a while to figure out, because it shouldn't just be from Travis. It should be from Tom Johnson, the head of Elevate, or the CEO. Because I'll tell you the truth, I hear about you guys once in a while on things you do, but you know, if you want to get your community and your commissioners fired up, or your city council, and you need money for these discretionary formulas and things like that, those things should be reported on, shouldn't they?
Mr. Chairman?
That'll be really
Go ahead, Tom.
Mr. Chair, you want to respond?
Yeah, unless somebody wanted to add to that. I'm
Go
happy
ahead.
to respond, yes.
My comment, Mr. Chair, would be that, you know, when Tom come to town, I mean, there's been a big changeover compared to what things have happened. So it's been a process, and I think you guys, you know, even with the foundation board, combining all that. So I give you kudos to that.
Thanks, Lynn.
I mean, it has been a process, and I don't know about you guys, but I've been getting the emails of the updates of what's going on.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman and members, Deb's correct. I mean, I've been here a year and a half. We had to get a merger of four nonprofits together during a pandemic. Our response to the pandemic, I think, was great. We just received an award from the governor for our response to the pandemic and some of the programs we've had. Had to hire staff, had to merge books and boards and all that stuff. Still, that's no excuse. Ms. Hadcock is correct. I could have been doing a better job coming here more often. Again, it took me about 5 months to realize the county wasn't invited to our meetings. And I asked, why aren't they ex officio? And someone said, well, we don't know. And I said, well, okay, we got to fix that. So we have Travis there now. Again, Ms. Hadcock is correct. I should and can be doing a better job updating you. Here's the good news. Our 5-year campaign, we're 3 years in. Our 4 big goals were 4,000 jobs, a 15% income in per capita wages, $300 million in CapEx, and $125 million in consumer spending. We're 3.5 years in, we've hit all those goals. We're at 4,600 jobs. We've increased wages, not we, the community, us, you, all of us, have increased wages by 20%, not 15. We hit $347 million in CapEx last year, just with buildings, not even equipment. And then we had $146 million in consumer spending last year. So we've hit all of our goals in 3.5 years. And had I been here to report on that, Deb would know that. And I feel like we've got a strong relationship with each one of you. I've reached out to you individually on individual projects, but Deb is correct. I could have and should be doing a better job, and I plan on remedying that. As my dad used to say, there's two kinds of people in the world, those that are humble and those that are about to be humbled, and I certainly got humbled today, and I appreciate Deb's feedback, though.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
your guys' job is to promote growth. And I can certainly see where the discretionary tax formula is the tool that you're going to need to do that. Because when you sit down with a potential buyer and they say, hey, what can you do for us as far as abatements? Well, nothing. And so hopefully that we can change that sometime in the near future. My question to Shannon would be, if this was approved hypothetically today, when would this actually take effect? Shannon?
The assessment date in South Dakota is November 1st. So any property that is built or remodeled over, I think, $30,000 in value, that's the only qualifier, it will apply to that. I suppose if you adopt it now, today, we apply it to any properties built or remodeled from today on, and then next year, all through next year.
Okay, but November 1st is the new assessment period.
November 1st is the assessment date.
Okay.
So the property valued as it exists on November 1st. But I'm backing up. I guess a property built last month wouldn't qualify because you adopted it today. There's nothing in the law that spells that out, but it sort of makes sense.
So, Chairman.
Sure. Commissioner Hadcock.
So, number one, Tom, it wasn't for Deb, it was for our community in Pennington County, sir. So I didn't mean to humble you or do whatever. That was my point is for Pennington County, we love and want to know what you are doing with economic development. So it helps our community for you to come up here and tell us what you're doing, sir. Shannon, we're not done with you yet, sir. So tell me about the discretionary formula and some of the things that you think. I think we need it kind of as a tool in a sense, but I think we need your help in order to make that happen in a way that I know you don't love it, but I think I believe it can be a tool for our economic development. Tell me a little bit about what you're thinking, Shannon, and why.
My personal opinion is that I'm against it because of the shift to the other taxpayers. Professionally, it's well within your right to adopt a discretionary formula, and they've made a good case of why. It's an incentive. It's a tax incentive to build. If you adopt it, it applies to all properties. As they've stated here already, there is no application, and it is a blanket. It will apply to every property that's constructed or remodeled, And whatever those properties are, we just apply the discretionary formula to it.
Well, why I say that is because it takes you about 5 years in a business to get it going, if I'm correct, Matt and Tom. So they need that extra help in a sense, and they're going to need help with that infrastructure. And if they're putting that infrastructure in, they're also helping the community if they're putting in outlining areas in Pennington County with that infrastructure, which would help build it around it, which that's why I like the TIFs. And that's why I do like TIFs, because you start at 50,000. It's like anything, like a savings for the taxpayers. At first, it's like, oh, Jesus, I got a debt of 50,000. But then when I've hit that 5 year blanket, it's worth 50 million. And how much does it save those taxpayers in the long run for the next 5 to 10 years after that? Am I correct?
That is exactly the incentive argument
Right.
that is made here. I would just say that discretionary formula applies to the building that is constructed or remodeled and not any of the infrastructure.
Right, which I understand that, but they would like, I think, did Matt or Tom, or I can't remember the young lady, they said that they would put or no, it was Randy, that the big box store would put the infrastructure and stuff around it. Well, that helps in those areas that they put that infrastructure so someone else can tap in or do whatever with it.
Absolutely.
So 56 counties use it. That tells me that it must be a pretty good incentive in how much they use that and how much it can work to our advantage. Will they build anyway? That's what they said about Cabela's, but look at Cabela's. We gave them a $2 million break, but how much infrastructure and how much did that build that area out by putting lift stations, oversizing, and different things for that area? That would have cost them, the taxpayers, more than $2 million to put that in if they didn't tip it on that with that incentive. So again, in a good business sense, this isn't a bad idea. I just think we need to look at it and what our process needs to be, and put that as a tool in the toolbox. And like we said, with tips or anything else, what's the pros and cons? And Commissioner LaCroix said that there's a process in which maybe we need to look at of how we use it in Pennington County and how we use it if we do it. I'm not against it. I'm just wondering what that process would be once we decided we wanted to do it.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you guys all for being here today, and thanks for your presenters coming up and giving us some more information, because it made my decision. Let me explain a little bit about, I didn't like the blanket effect on this, but you guys come up with some different solutions that other counties are doing, and I think those are some things that we need to hear, whether it be we apply this here to this area, that area, or we come up with a process or something. I hear a lot of positive from this commission about we want to be able to have those tools to do it, and I am too. I just didn't like the blanket effect and the effect on the taxpayers completely for everybody. So I think there is a solution to this, but I don't think it'd be, for me, not today. I think I need a little more information. We need to work a little bit more together to come up with something, and I think I'm more than willing to sit down with some of you guys to do that, and as I'm sure the rest of these commissioners or Mr. Drew would be. But I think we need to find some of those other areas that we could look at and find work together.
Commissioner Roskinick.
I guess where I look at it, and I personally, and I'm in support of the formula. And the reason why is because we got $1 million piece of dirt out there, and the developer comes in and says, I want to build a $50 million building. Give me an incentive. We don't have it. Next year, that's still $1 million piece of dirt. And the next year, it's still $1 million piece of dirt that we're getting taxes on. But if that piece of dirt had a $50 million building, then you'd have the $51 million piece of dirt with a building on there. And in year 5, when they were paying their full assessed value on that, that would be relief to every taxpayer in Pennington County. So, yeah, there's a little pain at the first, but it's like an investment. In the long run, it's a good deal.
So, Chairman,
I would agree.
one more thing.
Commissioner Adcock.
Maybe with Travis, I could work with, me and Travis can go in and work with Matt and maybe Tom and look at the discretionary formula and look at Sioux Falls in different areas, and maybe we come back with, like Commissioner LaCroix said, with some kind of process or something that we can find for a solution and maybe make this one of our tools in the toolbox. I'd be willing to put my time and energy, and Mr. Travis is on that
And I was writing notes so I could reach out to Tom and for Matt after this meeting, because I'm like, that's what I was looking for.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. We do have two more community support.
Okay.
Would they have time?
Absolutely.
Next is Lily Stone with
Good. I
Wall
was going to
Economic
call on her
Development.
anyway, so thank you. So Lily, as you're coming forward, you represent City of Wall.
Yes.
And we know that you have a discretionary formula for the City of Wall.
Yes, we do.
My concern was, and I had expressed this to Anna, and I think she had talked to you about it, relative to what happens if we, as a county, adopt a discretionary formula. Does that trump the one that Wall has? And so, and what would be your concern or hesitation on that, if any? So I'll let you answer that question and then tell us whatever else you would like.
Okay, so I would answer this question, but can I start what we've done?
Absolutely.
Okay. So my name is Lily Stone, and I'm Executive Director of Wall Economic Development, and I am here today just to let you know what we've done in our town last year. So we all know Wall for the Wall drug, 5 cents coffee, free ice water, donuts. We have a really busy summer, always every summer. So this is how our Main Street looks like in the summertime. It's pretty busy. And this is our businesses on the Main Street. And Main Street is our big sales tax generator. So we have every single business open in the summertime. And we have lots of people, it's busy. But when winter comes, we lose 75% of our businesses on Main Street. So when we looked at this, and with COVID happened last year, and Wall Drug being closed for 2 months, Wall became a ghost town for us. We realized we have to be more aggressive to diversify our economy. We can't rely only on tourism. So this is when economic development made a proposal to the city council to adopt discretionary formula. It's going to be incentive tool in our pocket. Anyway, we actually had three versions of the formula. The one was 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. This is what you guys looking at right now. Another one, we had 0, 20, 40, 60, 80. And the third formula was 0, 0, 0, 0. We looked at different formulas because I don't know if you guys know, but other counties, they're using all types of formulas, 0, 0, 50, 50, all type of this. So we decided to come up with these formulas. After several discussions, and we had lots of discussions just like you do right now, I think you're just going right way, having right conversations. But with the situation in Wall, we have to be very aggressive. So the city council decided to give us the biggest incentive they could. And I'm going to quote one of the council members. He said, if you want economic development, do their job, we have to give them a tool. So this is a great tool to have in your package to attract new businesses, to be more competitive. But I'm going to tell you one thing that we adopted it later last year. So we haven't seen lots of impact right now, but the people's attitude is changing right now. And I'm going to be honest, I see more local people stepping up, want to expand, want to build. So it's not like we're attracting new businesses in. Actual local people getting more excited. They have this extra incentives they can use. And it's a small business owners. Because this is, helps them, it's huge for them. If you can save $10,000, $15,000 over 5 years, I think it's huge for them. It's maybe not huge for the big companies, but this is what I see right now. My conversations from, well, I have this idea, I kind of want to do this. So now we actually saying, well, I'm going to do this. I just need help to find land and find money for this. So this incentive is huge for economic development, for your business owners. And it's, of course, competitive tool to attract more businesses. I'm going to be honest, we didn't see anybody building right now, and there's lots of reasons for this. Lumber's up, prices are skyrocketing, but I foresee growth in Wall in the future years because what we do today going to pay us off probably 10 years from now. That's why WAL is actually trying to put infrastructure for housing development. We're focusing on our industrial park. And we actually already implementing a property tax rebate formula for housing. So we've actually been paying out to people who build new housing. And this helps too, because we're actually seeing people building houses now more and more. WAL is different than Rapid City. There is no question about that, but it's really helped us a lot. And I see this discretionary formula. It's been several months, we didn't see anything right now, but it's getting out there. Not everybody knows right away. You can't call everybody and tell them. But it's getting out there, and I'm going to tell you, I'm pretty sure we're going to see lots of growth. Not lots, but we didn't see much growth in several decades, so we're going to see growth, I'm pretty sure, in next 10 years because of what we do today. About the formula, it is going to affect WAL because whatever you guys implement, whatever formula it's going to be, we have to implement the same formula. So I'm not here to say how it's going to affect us. I just think there is a lots of conversations going to be about it, and if I can be part of this, I will be happy to do this. And the one last thing I want to, if I may, to pass some formulas around just to see how it works, what we have and what, if you implement something, how it would look like at the end.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just going to make a comment, if you don't mind, while she's passing that out.
Sure.
That was one of my concerns is, I was going to talk about WALs using this currently and how would it impact once the county passes one. So thank you for coming, Lily. That's.
So So if I gave you 4 different formulas here. So the first one is when we all don't have any formulas. It's like 100%, and how much the property owner would pay if it's a $500,000 property over 5 years. And I just assume it's going to be $500,000 through the 5 years, no increase here. So you can see how much they would pay on the city portion, how much they would pay on the county portion. The next formula is number 2, is actually shows what we have right now. So the city of WAL has 0, and county has nothing right now adopted. So this is how much property owner would pay over 5 years right now. And then there's different options. The options that you guys looking at, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, shows if we adopt this formula too, how much the property owner would pay on a city portion, on a county portion. So I want to say I'm pretty excited you're actually talking about it. I think it's great. It's a lot of questions. I see it's lots of questions. It's right conversations you're having, and I think, if you guys planning to have more conversations, I'm happy to be part of it as
Any
well.
questions of Lily?
Lily,
Commissioner Oshkosh.
my question would be, this would not impact your residential.
Nope.
You're going to go 0, 0, 0
Yeah,
for the
and residential
residential?
is a little different for us because we actually adopt, it's a different codified law. It's not discretionary formula. It's called municipality tax rebate. So what we do, we actually reimburse money back. People pay property tax, and then we reimburse, we send them a check at the end of the year. This way it would be different. They would get this property tax invoice, whatever I want to call it, and it would say like city 0 or county 0. So it would be calculated out there right away with discretionary formula.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Commissioner Adcock?
just a question. Do we have any other cities that are using discretionary besides WAL right now?
Not that I know of.
County?
I don't think so in the county, no.
Okay.
Thank you, Lily.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Anything else, Matt?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask Luke Neely from Lloyd Companies to come talk.
Oh, okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, my name is Luke Neely, Regional Development Director for Lloyd Companies. And I'd like to thank Elevate for coming out today and presenting this discretionary formula. I've got just a little bit to add here. I'd like to share a success story. The county currently has a discretionary formula in the way of housing. We are a housing developer out here, and we've recently begun construction on an affordable housing project within Pennington County. It's a great project, something that we're really excited for. If the discretionary formula that you had adopted was not in place, that project would not have been able to get started. When we sat down to do all the financial projections for that project, tax abatement was something that we were accustomed to in other counties. And so it was of much benefit to have the discretionary formula available for that calculation. So just wanted to add that as a success story. It's something that we anticipate will continue to use. And as a developer, those types of incentives are very important even when looking to move into a community. So I think there's been a lot of great points shared today. And I'm glad that the commission is going to continue to look at this. I think time is of the essence for this. We've got a lot of interest in our community right now in the Black Hills, Pennington County, and I think that this is very much a part of the conversation early on in the beginning of employers looking to move to our area. We've got a major housing challenge, but we also have employment challenge, and I think that anything that the county can do to encourage employers to come to the area, increase our standard of living, increase our wage levels, it would be of benefit for all the taxpayers. So,
Luke, your current project is on Catlin Boulevard, correct?
that is one of our current projects.
Okay,
correct?
you have more than one going right now?
We do, yeah, and we're looking at several others.
Okay.
The one that I was referencing is an affordable housing project over in Big Sky Business Park.
Okay. So how many units are you constructing currently in the Rapid or Pennington County?
Currently, we're under construction over 200. There'll be another 148 that we'll begin construction on here in a month. We have plans to look at 1,000 units within the next few years. So we are strongly considering close to $200 million of improvements in the area.
Mr. Chair.
Just one more question, Ron. And your company is based out of Sioux Falls, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Commissioner Roskinick.
So the resolution that you're talking about would have been dated the 16th of June, 2020, relative to the affordable housing.
Correct.
And then there's some criteria in there, terms of 10 years. And
Correct, yeah.
no, I think that was a very effective tool, and I'm glad to see that it worked.
Yeah.
Other questions, Luke?
One last question.
Commissioner LaCroix.
Luke, I really appreciate what you guys done when you come to town, and I'm glad that was able to help you. But I want to repeat what, I can't say the mayor's of Sioux Falls' last name.
Tenhagen?
There, yes. But he made the comment the other day too. I mean, housing is very important in our community, and right now we are feeling the crunch with employees. I guess Tom would know more of that than I would. But I mean, we're also having a hard time finding enough employees to fill the positions that we have now. So I know economic development's very important, but also getting the housing and the people here to fill those positions too. I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah. Thank you, Luke.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Just a comment on my part. Instead of asking for a motion on this today, we're right in the process of our budget operations here. We'll probably have a pretty good feeling on where we're at budget-wise, and can take all this in at the same time by the end of this month. And so I'm going to ask for the commission to delay any action on this at this point in time until a future meeting. So go ahead.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I think that makes sense, especially since we're going to get some data together for both of the commissioners, and we'll hope to have that here in the next couple weeks to help you with your decision. Is there anything else? Any other questions?
Any other questions, Matt? Hearing none. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate
Thank you.
everybody coming in
you.
relative to this. Appreciate the information provided and look forward to the rest of it. Thank you. Next item is item 15, items from Sheriff Kevin Tome and Stephanie and others apparently.
Good morning, Kevin Tone, Pennington County Sheriff.
Steph McQuay.
Here to talk about the memo you have on the Dakota Build Scholarship. We have an existing partnership with Western Dakota Tech on a number of fronts. A number of people teach out there. We have some intern programs. We have part-time staff we hire. We recruit from them now. And then also Matt Bruner's going to stick around from Elevate and talk about the program. And I met with Cindy regarding this, and Cindy wanted us to bring it to the commission for two reasons. One, raise the awareness of the program, but also approve the expenditure of the funds, which is included in the memo. You can see there's a motion included in there as well. But I'm going to hand it off to staff, let her talk about the program, then let our partners from Western Dakota Tech introduce themselves and Elevate and talk about the program. We think it's a win-win for everybody.
Super. Stephanie.
So this is an opportunity to recruit and retain employees through a scholarship match for certain skill programs out of the technical programs, and then also an option to apply for a grant to recoup some of those funds back to the county to keep those skilled employees here with us for up to 3 years. And this not only applies to positions in the sheriff's office and our medical department, but also highway, buildings and grounds. IT could also take advantage of this program for those skills that they also have a high need for. And I'll just give you a quick example. We lost our nurse at the care campus in February, and we finally had a replacement start on Monday. So we've spent the last 4 months paying for advertisements, trying to explain to people and reach people that the sheriff's office has nursing positions, interviewing them, burning out our staff. And we ended up hiring a graduate from Western Dakota as an LPN to work for us. In hindsight, if we had had this opportunity, we could have had her as a part-time employee during her entire program for a $3,000 investment. We would have known she was here, we would have saved all that time and stress, and then she would be committed to our agency for the next 3 years, and hopefully at that point just want to stay. So we see this as a real opportunity to have access to applicants that we're not currently seeing, get exposure to what we offer, and also keep them with our agency for a period of time. The other thing it allows is if we have current staff that want to go back and develop themselves professionally, they can do that, continue to work for us, and then we get to keep them another 3 years after they've gained that higher certificate. So,
Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
Bottom line is, we're talking about workforce housing. We're talking about workforce now. We need that workforce, and this is one of those tools in the toolbox we were talking about that's going to bring incentives that are going to make a difference for that workforce. So very positive moving forward. I can't make the motion now, but I think it's something that this board and your foresight with the sheriff's office and with Matt and Cindy and others, that it's a great idea, because a lot of us in the commercial industry are finding we need that workforce right now, as well as adding to that.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Move to approve the sheriff's office to participate in the Build Dakota Revitalized Grant by sponsoring students currently enrolled in Western Dakota Tech's registered nurse, licensed practical nurse, and paramedic programs, including incentivizing our current workforce to enroll in the programs to advance their current licenses.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Lassiter. Before I go to a vote on that, Sheriff, would you like to introduce your other partners?
Yeah, I'd like to let them speak just briefly. The other thing is, John from County HR is here as well, because this does have application in other aspects of the county.
Absolutely.
So if we can get it started here, I think John sees a potential for growth into other areas of the county, but I'll hand it off to Western Dakota Tech, and they can come up, and then Matt.
Super.
Good morning. Thank
Good
you
morning.
so much. My name is Demita Simons, and I'm the Western Dakota Technical College Foundation Director. And at the foundation, we raise funds for scholarship opportunities to help students attain higher education. And one of the scholarships that we have is the Build Dakota Scholarship Program. And so this is a full ride scholarship opportunity, and it's an amazing opportunity for anyone seeking employment and a career that will help meet our community needs. With me is Jenny Best. She's my Assistant Director of Scholarships, and she works directly with partners, community partners, and students, so I will let her take over over. And I do have a little information that I'd like to share with you, a little bit more about the Build Dakota, the programs that are supported by Build Dakota, and I'll just hand it out while she's talking.
Did you say your name? Not Cindy, it's Mindy. What's your first name?
Danita.
Danita.
Danita. Why did I call you Cindy?
All right, I am just going to give you kind of a quick overview of Build Dakota. Stephanie did a really good job kind of explaining how it would work. But it started in 2015 because there is a shortage of skilled employees in the state of South Dakota. And so T&E Sanford and the state of South Dakota created this $50 million scholarship fund. And it was successful enough that we've got another 5 years that they're going to fund Build Dakota. So it's a full ride scholarship. The students have to be in a program that is identified as high need. And so every year, the Build Dakota Board, the technical colleges, and the Department of Labor, we review all of these different areas to determine if there's a lack of skilled employees and people needing these employees and what the pay is. One of the things they wanted to make sure with this scholarship is that people could go through a program, graduate, they have a job, but they're actually able to support themselves through their salaries. The students do have to commit to maintaining a 2.5 cumulative GPA while they're enrolled. They have to complete their program on time. They need to be full-time. And then again, they do have to work in the state of South Dakota for 3 years in the field that they graduate from. If they do not meet these requirements, then this scholarship turns into a debt and it goes to the bank and we collect on that so that we can then turn around and offer more scholarships. The students working with industry partners, once they're sponsored, that partner and that student, they come up with an agreement of what they want to see, whether it be internship, part-time working. Sometimes the partners will say afterwards, we want you for a year and then we'll reevaluate. Most of them want them for that 3-year work commitment. And it's worked out really well for our students because they're building that relationship as they're going through school. They're understanding the climate of their employer and they can basically graduate and just hit the ground running. We also work with a lot of the economic development groups throughout the state. And so I know Elevate's going to come speak, but they actually started a grant so that some of the smaller businesses that may not be able to afford to sponsor a student can apply for that grant and they will pay a portion of that sponsorship cost.
Nice.
Very good. Questions? Yes, Commissioner LaCroix.
Well, first of all, Danita, and I forgot your name.
Jenny.
Jenny, I want to thank you guys for what you do and coming here. I know this has been a long work in progress for many years as far as getting that grant, and we're finding a shortage in the skilled labor field in our community, and I know some big people stepped up and Elevate to get the trades going, and finally, as a county, we're looking at getting into it, which is great because that tells me that the market's tight. You know, the county and city used to take the cream of the crop, people that have 5-6 years experience or 10 years. Now we're getting to where it's so competitive. We need to start training and teaching our people from the ground up. And I think us being in a partnership with you guys, not only with the nursing, but also we've got mechanics, we've got HVAC people, we've got a lot of that stuff that we could pull in, and this would work great for. So I'm glad that you guys stuck with it and got it to where it's at today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments? Danita and Jenny, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
John, would you like to come forward?
Morning, Commissioners. John Morrill, Pennington County Human Resources. I was thrilled when I saw this on the agenda for today. not only for the sheriff's office, but for the county in general. It gives us an opportunity to support the students in the area, support those that are seeking to get additional skills to help support their families. But it'll also help us to fill some of those hard-to-fill positions within the county. Commissioner LaCroix, you mentioned the mechanics and the HVAC and the plumbing and the electricians and the nursing programs. It's amazing that we have such a resource like this right in the county. But to have this partnership now as well will help us fill some of those positions. So the sheriff, or actually it was Stephanie, I think, talked about the time it took to fill just one position, so several months. We have some positions in buildings and grounds that we've fought and struggled to fill for several months as well. I see this as a huge opportunity for Mike and the Buildings and Grounds team. You as a commission just a few months ago approved an internship job description and wages for the highway department. I see this as an extension of that program as well. So we have an on-the-job training. We have the scholarship to help them get the training. I just wanted to let you know I'm very supportive and excited about this.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. You bet. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Kevin, any others? Matt?
Let Matt go first.
Thank you, Chairman Drews. Matt Brunner again with Elevate. I'm sure you guys are getting tired of seeing me. I'm stepping in for Samantha McGrath. She is in National Guard training this week and next, but we've come alongside Western Dakota Tech with our Revitalize grant. We couldn't be more excited about this opportunity with Pennington County. For those of you that aren't familiar with the program, and I'm just going to read directly from our application. So an employer may choose to utilize the program to benefit a current employee or work with the technical college to identify a Build Dakota scholarship applicant that currently does not have an industrial partner. Employees are strongly encouraged but not required to identify the student at the time of the application. So what we are doing is coming in and helping support half of what the sponsored industrial partner would be. So our cost would not be more than 25%, but up to, and I apologize, $6,000 is our maximum grant amount. Is there any questions at this time about our support and continued support of this program?
Questions?
No, I think it's sorry, Chairman, did I say?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's a great program. I don't know if it's a question for you, Matt, or maybe Jenny or Danita. I've heard of the schools like the Central High School, Stevens High School, different ones. Are they doing some skill set training, and do they qualify? What age group does this qualify students that want to get in the program? Meaning, can they start it in high school? Because I know they're giving incentives for, I think it's 16 and up or something.
So a lot of the high schools have career and technical education, and one of the things that we look for, they do have to have their GED or be graduated in order to qualify for Build Dakota, because they're either going through an associate's degree or diploma program. Okay. But we do encourage that they do some of that because, especially with the high school students, because it can be converted to debt, we want to make sure that they know what they're getting into and that it's either a hobby or they've done that career and technical education or they've really studied what they're getting into.
Well, I think it also incentivizes if they know being they're starting in high school and then they come out and that they can get these scholarships and different programs and showing these students, because that's where we're going to start getting that skill set is right out of high school. And the ones that, don't want the college for 3 to 4 years kind of thing, you can get plumbers, electricians, and they make just as much. So,
right. And many of the high school students obviously can take dual enrollment classes, so they can get a leg up on taking some of those gen ed classes. And so they can do that while they're in high school and still qualify for the Build Dakota.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's a good building block just to keep moving forward, and then Elevate and the rest actually helping move this forward. I appreciate that and that information today too. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt?
I had a quick comment / maybe you could help me with those numbers, but I know that industrial partners are really utilized in Sioux Falls and the eastern side of the state. And so I just wanted to note, the more we can spread the news about this, particularly the Build Dakota Scholarship, I think it's like well over 100 versus 19 or 20. Do you know that off the top of your head?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, East River has a lot of industry partners. In fact, Southeast Tech, every student has an industry partner that they award a scholarship to. So we're really trying to get people West River on board because they end up sponsoring a lot of the students at Western Dakota Tech, and then those students move East River.
Do the cities in other counties do stuff like this as well? Meaning they partner, because this is something that you would partner with your county or your city because it benefits not only your county employees, it benefits, the county as a whole. So,
As far as I know, I think we're the first one. I haven't heard, have you? Yeah.
okay, that'd be pretty exciting.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it is.
So yeah, I appreciate the county, kind of jumping in and doing this. And Samantha wanted me to note how much we really appreciate you guys taking a look at this and just to continue to spread the word because we all know that we're at a little bit of a crossroads with employment, particularly skilled trades, and this program is just incredible. So thank you guys again.
Thank you.
We would also like to see every student in Bold Dakota, Western Dakota Tech sponsored by an industry partner. And we also obviously want to help fulfill the workforce need in our communities. So thank you.
Thank you. Our commission manager brought a good suggestion that instead of limiting this to the sheriff's office, and we appreciate this, to modify the motion slightly, that would allow for any department to take advantage of this. And so the motion, and I would ask Commissioner Roskinick and Commissioner Lassiter if they would go along with this, is the motion would read, move to approve the Pennington County to participate in the Build Dakota Revitalization Grant by sponsoring students currently enrolled in Western Dakota Tech, including incentivizing our current workforce to enroll in the program to advance their current licensures. There you go. That would work for you?
That'll work.
It works for me.
Okay. So further discussion on the motion?
Thank you, Holly.
Yep. Yeah, appreciate it, Holly. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Items from equalization. Shannon.
Good morning, Shannon Rittberger, Director of Equalization. I have brought an abatement request to you. You have the paperwork, but this is a mobile home that the sheriff's office has declared uncollectible and doesn't have any value, and the city of Box Elder is either going to destroy it or already has.
Chairman.
And request that we abate the 2019 tax.
Commissioner Adcock.
Move to approve the abatement application for parcel number 8011383 for Brandy Sears in the amount of $156.74 for the tax year of 2019.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner Lassiter, to approve. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Item 17, items for Highway Department. Joe Miller.
Good morning, Commission. Joe Miller, Pennington County Highway. Up in front of you first, item A is a right-of-way certificate for our South Rochford Road Bridge. This certificate is done after everything's been filed at the Register of Deeds. This project is actually currently slated to start June 22nd. We had our pre-construction meeting 2 weeks ago, I believe. 2 weeks ago, and Jack Core with Core Construction will be starting on this June 22nd. Project came in at $985,490, approximately $150,000 over the engineer's estimate. So looking forward to getting this project going.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinick.
Move to approve the right-of-way certificate on project BRF 640309 PCN02JT for the replacement of the South Rochford Road Bridge 52-162-272.
I have a motion by Commissioner Roskinick, second by Commissioner LaCroix. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next up, item B is a raised planning grant, currently or formerly known as the Build Grant. I believe last year you guys voted on and passed a resolution to support this, and we committed $300,000 over the course of 3 years to this project. Just a little quick overview. This project includes Highway 1416, all the infrastructure, Radar Hill Road from 1416 to Highway 44, and then Liberty Boulevard, all of which are Pennington County roads, or at least a portion of them are. Box Elder is in the audience, so I will allow them to give their presentation.
Come on forward, Bob.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Bob Kaufman. I'm the city engineer for Box Elder. With me, I have Dana Foreman, our consultant with KLJ Engineering. I'll just give you a little brief summary of what the project is. Joe did a good job of summing it up. A little bit more of the history of it. Last year, we applied for this as a build grant, which is the terminology through the Trump administration for this particular program. We know that we got to the secretary's desk for the final cut and fell off the table at that point. So we know we had a very good application. This year, through the new administration, the program has been renamed as a RAISE grant. And there's been some additional requirements placed upon it. I guess for lack of a better way to put it, it's more social type programs and what's another good word?
Probably more emphasis on environmental type requirements.
Environmental type requirements, okay. So with that, we've had to do a little bit of shifting in the application, but there's been some things that have happened in Box Elder just this last year, specifically the Liberty Center, that has probably been the thing that will make this application actually go over the top, because it provides a lot of those additional type requirements that have been added to this program that it fits right in with what they're looking for. So what we are doing again this year is we are reapplying as a strictly an engineering grant to get the project designed. Once we get the project designed, then we can go back and know that we have a much better package to submit for an actual construction grant at some time in the near future, hopefully not more than 2 years out.
Very good. Questions of Bob or David? So all it's really doing, what we're doing is reaffirming our commitment from a year ago that we're in support of this project. Name change, administration change, and so forth, so it brings it current. And so I don't see any issues, any questions from myself relative to this.
Yeah, Mr. Commissioner, you are exactly correct. It's basically the same program, just renamed, and like I said, we're just reapplying again for that engineering design grant.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner LaCroix.
I'd move to approve the resolution 2021-06-15-1 agreeing to be the co-applicant for RAISE planning grant with the city of Box Elder for the transportation improvement to Highway 14-16 Radar Hill Road, and approve the chairman's signature on the letter of support to the United States Department of Transportation.
I have a motion from Commissioner LaCroix. Is there a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Hadcock. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Can I just add one other little brief thought here? One of the other reasons we are really pushing this is that we see stuff coming from the federal government here in the near future that's going to be providing money to all of our entities that put us in an opportunity to have some additional cash that we can throw towards a project like this to maybe not have to go in for a full 100% grant application, but have some funds that we contribute as our own in-kind shares, which will be a big, big benefit to making this project go.
Thank you, Bob.
So keep that in mind.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you much. Next item, number 18, cattle guard and road maintenance concerns. Have Zeb Hoffman.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I am here to talk about the cattle guards on Pedro and Wilsey Road. March 17th, the county came out and maintained the road, and on Pedro Road, there's 11 cattle guards, and they got 7 of them. They put gravel in 7 of them. I was informed Mitch about it. Mitch said we will take care of it. they did go out there and shovel one out a foot, that does nobody any good. Cattle still can walk across the cattle guard only a foot. I have pictures of where they filled them in of the day. I'm just, I need something to happen. Joe sent me an email today that says we are half cost of it. I do not feel that's right. I did not fill them in. I guess I am here to see what can happen with this deal.
Okay, questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah, Commissioner Raskin.
Did the grates lift off?
Yes.
And then if it was me and I had the equipment, I'd probably use a small little skid steer or a backhoe to clean it out. Is that the process?
Well, then I'd have to take liability of them. My farm insurance will not carry liability on insurance or on.
No, I'm just saying if the county was going to do it, that's the way
Or
you
if I
do
may,
it.
Ty Eisenbraun. Skid steers don't really get in there.
Will you please identify yourself?
I'm sorry, I'm Ty Eisenbraun. I live right at Pedro Road. Skid steers don't really get down in there to get them cleaned all the way, but a backhoe where you can come from the
Well,
side.
I'm talking about a little rubber track with a.
Yeah, well, like a little excavator does great. You about need the bucket to be able to get in there.
Just wondered
and reach. Yes, sir.
If you're going to do it, the proper way to do it. That was my question.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, further questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lassiter.
Zeb, did you say you can't lift that grade up because of insurance purposes? So you're telling me you can't do that to do the cleaning job? Is that what I understood you
What I
say?
understand is if I touch the cattle guard as of maintenance, I have to take over liability on the cattle guard. Because if I was to mess up the cattle guard in any way of breaking it or putting it in wrong or leaving a hump, I would be liable for if anything was to happen on that cattle guard. If I am correct there.
Chairman,
Okay, Commissioner Hadcock.
so do we put in the cattle guards for the ranchers? Do we put them in, Joe?
Joe, can you come up?
Joe Miller, Pennington County Highway Department. Any new installation that goes in, we put them in for the rancher or for the benefited landowner. The landowners are responsible for all costs associated with that new installation.
So we don't need the cattle guard, they need the cattle guard.
Correct.
So if you need something, Zeb, then we can always take it out and we won't have any maintenance, you won't have any I like ranchers and farmers, I'll just tell you.
The agreement was, and don't quote me on the date, I think that road was built in 1947.
Okay.
The agreement was at the time that the county wanted to put the cattle guards in so they do not have to stay on the section line. The road is not on a section line. It is going through private property. And so we gave them easements, or whoever owned the land at the time gave them easements. And the general agreement was that they put cattle guards in and maintain them.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do you have follow up, do you have a,
Well, you
paper
guys
that
should
says
have the
that?
easements. Is there?
There should be, if there's an easement, Zeb, there is a recorded document that should say that. Because when you do an easement, I have an easement on one of my, it has to be recorded and it has to have that documentation that you're saying. And Joe would have that if it had it. Bottom line is, you don't want the cattle guards in there anymore?
No, we would like cattle guards. This is just became a problem here, I'd say 8 years ago on the county. Now, I think Travis said 2008, if I was correct.
A problem with you cleaning them, Zeb?
Yeah, with the county maintaining them and cleaning them. Before, the county has always maintained and cleaned our cattle guards until about 8 years ago. And then now they're going to try to charge us, or they're charging us to clean them and maintain them.
Okay, so Joe, if you could come up here, tell me the policy, and you just said we don't maintain and clean them as of.
So currently, the policy states that the cleaning is 50-50 cost split between the landowner and the county. up to $300.
So,
So we just cleaned one. I believe I have a copy of a cattle guard we just cleaned for one of the Kersteds on Wilsey Road, actually. Cost the county $1,500.
okay, so
And we
Joe,
only,
when did we start the policy?
2008, I believe, is when the policy was put in place, so 13 years ago.
Okay, and that's when Zeb said there was an easement and they signed something. Do we have anything that we ever looked, what Zeb's talking about?
I haven't ever seen I haven't personally seen the easement or anything for Pedro Road. I don't know if that document exists. A lot of county roads out in that area are roads by prescription, which gives us 66 foot of right of way for after we've maintained those roads for 20 years.
So Joe, is this on the right of way? Is Zeb right that we actually got property off the property owners and then ended up, making an easement with an agreement?
I can't answer that question. I haven't never seen an agreement to that nature.
And maybe we could look that up, because if that's true, then in that sense, I don't know if you could go back on it, but if the policy was done in 2008, those cattle guards were done in 2008, right, Zeb?
The cattle guard's been there for longest I can remember, ma'am.
Okay.
Most of our cattle guards, we have no information on. Our documentation goes back a long time, and we just simply don't have any documentation as to when a lot of these cattle guards were put in. We just don't have that.
So Joe, bottom line is, if he gave an easement for us to put the road and the cattle guard on there, there should be documentation somewhere about it. That's
Correct. If there's we might be looking for a needle in a haystack too. And the document might not exist, but we can definitely take a look.
I'd ask Audra. She would probably know.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Huskinick.
I kind of look at the cattle guards like bridges. The bridges that we have, 126, 127, they're all identified, they're inventoried, and they're inspected on a routine basis. Is that something we could try to do with cattle guards in certain areas, so that, and then a policy that would be up to date so that the landowner and the county know exactly who's responsible for what?
They are inspected annually. We inspect them every year.
And they're identified?
Correct. Yep.
And so the ones that they're talking about?
Yes, we've inspected them all. I believe last fall is when we did that.
And when you inspect them, what are you looking for?
There's a checklist. I don't have that in front of me currently, so I haven't looked at I've looked at it, but I haven't studied it in depth, because a lot of our crews go out there and do that sort of thing. So one thing we will do this next year is sit down and have a conversation with everybody that's inspecting our cattle guard, so there's no question as to what we are looking for.
But if a cattle guard is full of gravel, then it's not effective. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's kind of what you're.
Yes.
Okay.
And then at that point, what we do as the county highway department, we approach the benefited landowners and say, hey, your cattle guard needs cleaned. We just ran into this on Doffenbaugh Road. A cattle guard needed cleaned, and we approached the landowner, said, hey, cattle guard needs cleaned. Here's the policy. She agreed to the cleaning and the $300.
Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
So 101 cattle guard, number one, maybe we could have some pictures of some cattle guards, maybe this one. And, I haven't looked at any cattle guards lately, I'll just tell you. And just see, this is one that needs to be maintained, this is not, this is what Zeb's supposed to do, this is what we're supposed to do, and then the policy. Because we do have pictures of the culverts, and you are getting that done, Joe, so.
Well, that's another thing. We need to get that project done. We need to put a box culvert in there. That's what the hydraulics state. And to do so, we need an easement from Mr. Hoffman to do that. So we're kind of at a catch-22. That's what we need to do. We've recently been reimbursed for FEMA for that. So we can get the box culvert ordered and get the project done, but we do need an easement from Mr. Hoffman. So.
Mr. Zeb Hoffman, number one, he's going to bring us pictures, and maybe we can figure out the cattle guard issue. Number two, you need a easement in order to get on your land for liability for us.
Yes, I understand that, ma'am. The culvert deal, I think last meeting we talked about this box culvert. I am not in favor of this. I have irrigation bottoms down there. The culverts that they got in now has already messed up my irrigation projects. It's taken out my levees. If we have any more water flow through there, it will destroy my irrigation bottoms.
So maybe there's a solution, sir, Zeb, with our new superintendent. He actually is a civil engineer and he actually works with people pretty well on this to find solution. And we have had some really good ag projects that we have done with Joe that have worked out pretty positive.
The culvert that was installed that is half washed out now, it produced probably too much water for us. We try to maintain it. In the email I got from Mr. Miller, it says we will put riprap, I think it's called.
We need to put riprap on the property,
And
correct?
that's what they needed to do on the last one. There's big rocks there that they left. I cannot remember when that culvert was put in. I want to say 10 years ago.
I don't have that documentation.
I'd say right around there. The rock set they were going to put in the bottom of there is still on the side of the road for the riprap.
So that was 10 years ago and you got a new superintendent. I know that's hard to trust.
I understand that, ma'am. I 100% do. But what I am saying here, it's a little bit of a ongoing deal. This happens all the time. Well, we'll get to this. You know, we're aware of the reason or the problem. We will get to it. And the only thing that usually happens is the can's getting kicked down further down the road. We have every time you bring up, it's no different than these cattle guards when they got pushed in. And granted, we are in a little bit of a drought. And I told Mitch that says I do not plan to have cattle up there until September. So that's giving them plenty of time. Drought hit. I had to kind of move some cattle around. I had to kick in there. I think it was May 20th.
So Zeb, you said will not fix culvert. He cannot fix culvert unless Zeb agrees with easement. You know what I'm saying? So you want a solution. He's telling you the solution.
I guess I have not had an easement paper to sign.
We asked for forgive me for just a second. I don't have a date as far as when this letter was sent, but we asked for a borrow pit to fix these culverts approximately after it happened. And this is the response that we got.
You want to give him a
Yep.
copy of this?
I remember this. My
You already
father
read it,
signed
sir?
this.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I can interject, I've talked to Zeb about some of this as well, and I've been working with Joe. We've been talking through some of the different things. We've asked him for the same information. That's why he's telling us that he can't find it, because I've asked for some of the documentation that's been asked for, and he's come back with me, letting me know that he couldn't find the original documentation back from 1947 or anything in between. We've talked about the culvert. We've talked about the roads out, the cattle guards out there as well. So this is kind of an ongoing thing. And this was interesting whenever I heard about this response when we were talking about the culvert.
Right. So basically that the way we interpreted that response was he wanted us to clean 5 cattle guards for the lifetime that the Hoffmans own the property, which, you know, pretty much ties us down to a long, you know, forever. And I wasn't interested in tying the county to that sort of agreement at $1,500 a whack, you know, who knows how often. So at that time, we never have approached that, I guess, again, so.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
So there's, how many cattle guards are filled up? 7?
7. And there is 3 below me that I have not looked at. Jay Shear cannot be here today. He is a manager of Linkland and Cattle, and he said there is 3 on his property.
So those 7, if I understand it, they need some work done on them.
Yes, they need to be pulled and cleaned.
So Joe, then I guess my question is whether it's the property owner or the county, how do we move forward to rectify that? So
Zeb needs to request, there's a form to request the cleaning of the cattle guard. He needs to fill out that form for the cattle guards that need to be cleaned. He can submit that to Mitch in a wall, and then we'll get it cleaned. If they agree to the $300.
That is the problem I have, $300. It'd be like me running into your car and then telling you have to pay for the repairs too, and I have to pay for half. This makes no sense to me. I am not the one that was maintaining the blade, and I did not fill them in. It makes zero sense to me.
So
Now, if I was to run into it with my tractor or with my vehicle, I would feel that I am responsible for it. But I am not the one that filled them in. They are saying that 50% of it is coming from traffic, from mud collecting and gravel on tires when they hit the cattle guard. It fills. I believe this is not true. We have a cattle guard at my house. Granted, it does not get as much traffic as what the Pedro roads get, but it gets as much traffic, probably not as much, but close to what is on Wilsey Road. And we've had it in for 15 years and it does not need clean.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, you had something else?
Go ahead, Travis.
Mr. Chairman. So this is my dilemma with this, and we have the cattle guards in for what purpose? Obviously, there's no documentation for it, but it benefits you, the landowner. Does it benefit you or does it benefit the county?
It benefits the county too.
How so, if you don't mind?
You went through private property, which that was the agreement, as everybody has told me. You guys can move the road to the section line if you feel that is cost efficient. Or I don't understand how for years until 2008, the county has always took care of the cattle guards, maintained the cattle guards. If a new cattle guard had to be put in, the county did this. And now, since 2008, you guys are trying to force upon the cattle guards as our responsibility.
Follow up with that then. Zeb, okay, so you're saying it benefits the county. How does it benefit you as a landowner?
Well, it benefits us that we do not have to fence all of our rough country. If 90% of the cattle guards in our area is in rough country, which is very hard to fence, we do not have flat land. Our fences would be down from snow removal, which I believe we do need snow removal, but we cannot move the fences far enough away so the snow will not lay on them. I understand what you're saying, that it only benefits us, but it does benefit the county by not having to take harder paths to build a road, and that's how come the cattle guards were instated.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
I guess what concerns me the most is that you said they used to do it, and now they don't do it. So I would suggest that we go back 15 years or whenever it was that they did do it and see what legal document we had to do whatever we did then, to see if we were doing something then that we should have never been doing. Or I'd just like to see that documentation to be the roadmap so that we got some base to make decisions on.
So maybe I can answer that question. COUNY, so the cattle guards are a liability to the county. They benefit the county. They're of no benefit to the county whatsoever, county highway. To answer Zeb's question there, if there was an easement granted at whatever time that was, now the county's been maintaining these roads for 20 years. Now we have that right of way by South Dakota state statute. We have the 66 feet. So COUNY's seen that this was costing the county a lot of money to clean these cattle guards, and they're of zero benefit to Pennington County Highway Department or Pennington County. So COUNY in 2008 saw a need to put a policy in place that was voted on by the commission in 2008 after a committee was formed to do this by there was several landowners on the committee itself with, I believe, Jay Alderman. I don't know if Jay's still here.
He stepped out in the hallway.
So Jay was on that committee. Maybe he could shed a little bit of light as to how we came about this. But we are currently reviewing that cattle guard policy. It's at the state's attorney's office right now for their review. So that's kind of how we got to where we are. It was costing the county a lot of money, and it doesn't benefit the county in any way.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroix.
Thank you, Joe. I mean, I was just going to say that you put it elegantly enough that COUNY at one point in time, after so long, just because you were doing it way back then doesn't make it right. if there was documentation that I could see where the agreement was made and so forth, I would be able to lean to that point. But at this point in time, after all the conversation I've heard, it makes absolute sense that administration at one point said we had to do something. I've seen the department way back when help out residents when they really probably shouldn't have been doing it to start out with. I've seen that happen. I don't know if anybody else on the commission has, but that doesn't make it right. That's why they put in policies and stock, because it got to that point. But without the documentations of what you're saying, the other problem I have is, I really don't have a picture of these cattle guards getting filled in, so do we know, did the workers say they actually took the grader and ran it across?
So I'll invite Mitch up here, but the pictures that I seen, there was actually snow on the bottom of the cattle guard when they were maintaining it.
Mhm.
And you could clearly see the new gravel that got pushed in was on top of the snow. So the existing gravel that was in the bottom had snow on it. Therefore, to me, it's been there for a while. If it had snow on it.
Okay.
Mitch?
Now that kind of makes sense, because I'll listen to Mitch, but I was wondering how it got, the way it's being described is like the blade took it and plowed across, but during grading and normal operations of snow removal is gonna put some in there.
Yes, good morning, Commissioner Mitch Kammer, Pennington County Highway. Yeah, when you're blading, it's about impossible not to get some gravel. It's gonna happen. This time that Zeb's talking about, it was excessive. And we talked on the phone, I told him we would go out there and we would take the gravel out that we put in, which we did so.
Okay.
Chairman, we have pictures on our phones. I'm not savvy enough, I guess, electronically to be able to show them, but I do have them on my phone. And so does Mr. Eisenbrown, which we can pass the phone around, I guess, because I'm not technology savvy enough to send them to you.
Can we see them, Chairman? Can I see the cattle guard?
Sure.
I've got it on my phone. I can pass my phone around too, because the same ones I have from Zeb.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
I guess Mr. Miller is saying that with the state of law that if they maintain it for 26 years,
20 years.
20 years, I am just curious, how can I own something in the middle of a county road? And that's what pretty much you are saying is I own the cattle guard in the middle of Pennington County Road. And if they maintain them for 20 years, isn't that pretty much grandfathered in? Like he said,
I wasn't talking about the cattle guards.
I know, but what I am saying here is if they do not need an easement since they have maintained the road for 20 years because it's grandfathered in, I think you would put it that way. So the cattle guards in the middle of the road that they say only benefit us, how can we own something in the middle of Pennington County roads? Because if we own that chunk of ground in the middle of Pennington County roads, it's probably right that we can put up a gate because we own the road.
Chairman.
Right there.
Commissioner Hadcock.
Zeb, we can always take those cattle guards out if they're an issue, because they benefit you guys. It's like us doing something for somebody else and then doing a benefit for them and asking, we need your help, you get to pay half of it. We do it all the time on other issues that we have. We have it on all
Magwater.
kinds of different roads. So if it's not benefiting anybody but the landowner that needs them, it's only fair. And what's the amount, Joe, that Zeb would have to pay per year to maintain a cattle guard?
To clean them, once, depending on the traffic volume, Sean pointed out, another good point is blow dirt, gets in these cattle guards. Also, some Mother Nature kind of.
So it's seven cattle guards. How much would it cost Zeb for his portion?
It would, so 7 times 3 would be $2,100.
A year?
Not every year.
They don't need to be cleaned every year. It's
Well, that's what I'm saying, guys. So, in order to keep your cattle in where they need to be, you're going to pay $2,100 per. How long does it take, Mr. Eisenbrown, before it would need to be cleaned again?
So probably not gonna like my answer, but it mostly counts.
Talking to here, honey.
It mostly counts on how much the blade packs in. So I have a cattle guard right in my corrals.
Right.
And they've not pushed any gravel in it. I go through there with my tractor like 4 times a day during the fall, spring, winter. And if any cattle guard should get full of mud, it should be that one because I'm in and out, in and out.
Right.
That cattle guard's fine. I guess the problem I have with what happened this spring was if I was to take my tractor with a loader bucket full of dirt, dump it in the cattle guard, they'd probably want me to pay for it all because it's my mistake.
Right.
When you take your blade, fill the cattle guard in, it's kind of the county's mistake. That's the way I see it.
But I'm saying, they wouldn't even need the cattle guard, you guys do. So, if they're filling it up, I think they're honest enough to know that they're pushing it in. And again, how long have the cattle guards been there to make them so now they have to be cleaned? I mean, when's the last time that you guys cleaned them? 10 years, 20 years? And it costs $2,100 to maintain my land with my cattle. If it's 10 years, if it's 5 years, I have to do it all the time with maintenance on my buildings and my motels and different things. Work with the city in order to maintain the road that's in the right of way, different stuff. It costs you a little bit to keep something that you need for your business. So answer my question if you would, Zeb, without sounding rude. How long has it been since those cattle guards been cleaned?
The one that in between our place was cleaned 5 years ago.
Okay. So let's divide that by 2,100 to keep a cattle guard that we put in to maintain your cattle. How much did that cost you for $2,100 to keep cattle on 7 cattle guards at $2,100 in 5 years?
Ma'am, this is how I'll bring this upon you. It'd be like somebody going to your motel and breaking out 5 windows. And if you knew who did it, would you ask them to pay for them 5 windows?
So you can prove that the highway department is what you're telling me, filled it up and they should go clean them out because your cattle can't, it's making your cattle so they can just walk across it.
Yes, ma'am.
Joe?
I think, Zeb, I think we were honest enough, you called, said, hey, the blade operator, and I think our blade operator even admitted to it. So we went in and cleaned the gravel that our blade operator clearly put in there.
Okay.
The rest of the gravel that routinely fills these cattle guards up from the traffic, same traffic that creates the washboards on the roads, they push gravel and stuff into these cattle guards. It's inevitable. One way we can mitigate that is to try and put some asphalt aprons on these cattle guards, which is hopefully part of the new policy that we're putting in, is to have some discretion to be able to do that, to minimize the impact on the landowners. I don't know where I was going with that.
So, Joe, your policy is to clean a cattle guard, you charge the landowner $300. Do you know what your raw cost is of doing that cleaning?
So I handed you with that packet there, it's $1,500.
Yeah.
Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Hoffman.
So if the county doesn't clean it and we clean it, can we send a bill to the county for $300 since it's 50-50 at maximum of $300?
Well, my recommendation would be if there's no benefit to it, the county's choice would be to remove the cattle guards.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
So, Joe, we know we got miles and miles of gravel roads in that area. Are there other property owners out there that are having these problems, and how just trying to be consistent with that whole area in general, is this the only area that we're having problems?
Not to my knowledge, this is the only problem. As Mitch stated, blades are going to push a little bit of gravel into there. It's kind of almost inevitable unless we put some asphalt aprons on those. But as far as getting landowners to agree to pay the $300 for the cleaning, this is the only issue that I've had to date in this position currently.
Mr. Chairman, can I tack onto that?
Commissioner Laster.
Joe, I was looking at this handout you gave me. I don't know if you handed it to all the commissioners because this is something that I have asked for. And from
You're the only one that got
Okay.
that.
So from 2014, if I understand this, you've got a list of individuals who've paid for cleaning since 2014. And you get the breakdown and everything. They paid their $300 and the county paid the amount that it costs to clean all those out. Anybody else complaining about the county doing that or this process?
Not to my knowledge.
And many of these individuals, if I'm reading this correctly, they have multiple cattle guards on their lands too.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Hopper.
this is the time that we did see him do it. There's probably been numerous times that the county has pushed gravel in here. This is probably one of the times that we have caught them. As Mr. Eisenbrown just says, he has one by his trail that he drives across multiple times through the year, and it is not full. So are you telling me that the traffic is putting more than 50% of it into the cattle guards? This is my only concern. We have just talked about that the way it looks to us, that the county is filling in more of the cattle guard than what the community is. That is my concern. So you guys are telling me I have to pay $300 to maintain something that the county owns. Therefore, my wheel tax, my land tax, and everything else that is supposed to help maintain the county roads. But yet, this is as an individual that has a cattle guard and is, in your words, benefiting only the landowner, that I have to pay the additional money.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. LaCroix.
Mr. Huffman, you know, I understand your frustration, but from the discussion I've heard today, you know, I think the highway worker, they came out, they did the best. You're gonna have snow removal, you're gonna have some of that put in. That's part of having a road, is the maintenance and upkeep of it, and that's gonna happen. The other part that I heard is that it's benefiting you, that these are benefiting you, the property owner, not the county, other taxpayers. It's access for you and your so forth. If we didn't plow those roads, then you'd be back in here saying we want our roads plowed. It's a double-edged sword. I understand you're getting frustrated with this, but in all reality, there's a give and take, and I think that give and take is, from what I've heard today, if you don't want it, they want to take the cattle guards out. If you don't want to pay for it, then they'll fill up, I guess, is where my thoughts are on this. I think we've discussed this good-heartedly throughout the last half hour. Me personally, I think if it was me, we want to get this drainage fixed, I would do a compromise of somehow or another. We put these in, you give us the easements to do that, we do some cleaning, get everything up to snuff. That would be my compromise for this whole situation. We get our drainage, you do the easement, we clean everything once, and then we're on a good understanding, this is the way it is. But I don't know, I'm one commissioner out of the rest.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
So another problem we have on gravel roads in my district could be dust. And so there's the MEADE water program where we're working on a program where the county participates and then the landowner participates. So when I'm looking at this cattle guard that was cleaned out in 2020 for Kerstead, it cost the county $600 and they asked Kerstead to participate $300. So on a cost share basis, it looks like the county's picking up 80% of the tab, and they're asking him to pick up less than 20%. So I think that was the whole intent of this, is that we can't do it for free, but we're not going to charge you $1,600. But to me, the 20% of $1,600, it's like that's because we're responsible for probably putting some gravel in. When that's just the way I interpret it. I'm learning more about cattle guards today than I ever thought I would.
Mr. Chairman.
Chairman.
Commissioner Laster.
Zeb, I don't know how much you know about my place, but I have a cattle guard. I drive over it every day. I've got 3 vehicles that drive over with trailers multiple times a day. The county does no maintenance on that because it's not in the same situation yours is there. So I understand how dirt gets in the cattle guards. Looking at those pictures you sent me, you're absolutely right. There was that one particular cattle guard that you could tell that the blade came and pushed it in there. I do that with my tractor. I know what it looks like. You clean it out. I get it. And so I have no problem with when we document something like that the county pushed extra into it and didn't do what they should, probably clean it out, that extra. But whenever I look at that cattle guard and I see all the other dirt that's in there, that's dirt that's been in there over time. When you got grass growing into it and things of that nature, that is not from the county blading and pushing it in there. I mean, you can look at me like that, but I mean, I drive over mine all the time, and I know how much dirt gets put into it and how much I've got to clean out of my. Granted, I only have one. You've got 7 out there, but I think a cost share, the way it is appropriate. I don't think the county should be paying to clean it all when it benefits you, because if the moment we take them out, what do you have, if the county was to take them out, what would you have to do at that moment in time? And I just want you to consider that in the cost.
Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
Okay, so the solution is, Zeb, you already know, you're a ranch guy. What are you giving me and what am I giving you? So I think you need a culvert, and we need a culvert in there that's going to benefit you, and you need some cattle guards, maybe some solution with some cattle guards. We have work deals with other people when we had to do stuff. I think the best benefit today is we turn this down, but then you work with our highway department and see if you can get the culvert you need. You can fill us in if they don't follow through. This young man and everything we've done so far has followed through. In fact, he's done above and beyond on many things that we have moved forward in Pennington County. And I tell you, probably differently, but not on here, on the dais. But I'll just tell you, there's a solution here. Work with him, see what you can get out of him, and try not to be as stubborn as you are right here. You are a cattleman, you know how that works. It comes to give and take and see if we can get something done with your highway department, because at this point I'm 1 of 5. I'm not going to give you what you want, but I think you can work with our highway guy, our superintendent Joe Miller, and I think he can help you. He's done solutions for other people, because we are into ag and we are into trying to make a solution for a cattle guy that is ag that does need some help. So that's the bottom line for me anyway. Work with our Joe Miller on your culvert and your things, Zeb, and Mr. Eisenbrun, and I think you'll find you're pretty happy, because he's worked with Mr. Trask and some others that are stubborn as you two, and he's got some good solutions. So maybe we could do that for you.
Mr. Chair, do you need a motion?
I'm not looking for a motion.
Okay.
That'd be the solution, Zeb and Mr. Eisenbrun.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Laster.
just a comment. I've reached out to Ron Roskinick because his district and my district has issues, and whenever I was talking to Commissioner Roskinick, we know that his district has a lot of dirt roads and the dust, and my area has a lot of dirt roads, and also the cattle guard issue. And he and I have talked, and I've run it by Joe a little bit. We were wanting to talk with Joe to figure out the best way to handle this. So maybe when we're doing that, loop us in. So if Zeb wants to be a part of it, Mr. Eisenbaum wants to be a part of it, me and Ron and yourself, we can all sit down and hash through some of this, because it's going to impact his and my district the most. So making sure that we're putting in policies that is, the right policies instead of just piecemealing it for individuals, because that's the only way we're going to be able to do it right.
Can I ask that we're able to be informed on this? So like that culvert that you guys are talking about replacing, half the road's gone. I, till recently, haven't heard any plans on it. Part of the road's washed out. For 2 years, we haven't heard anything. We kind of stay in the dark on all this.
Well, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I'll answer that question. Actually, whenever Zeb first asked me about it, I reached out to Joe, found out exactly what was the holdup, finding out we were waiting for those FEMA funds, and I relayed that information back to him. Now, I didn't hear from you, so if I would have heard from you, I would have done the same thing for you as well. But whenever I explained that, it didn't seem to set well. But we can't do certain things unless certain things are done to receive the monies to build it. So there is some process in that, and sometimes we're beholden to the federal government because that's the one who determined when we get those funds. And to be upset with us about it doesn't make sense, because this is what they're saying we have to do so that you can get the funds to do it.
Oh, I totally understand. I kind of feel like us out in the country that it affects. It'd be nice to be kept in the loop a little bit is all.
you're welcome to call me anytime. I will always call Joe. Joe knows I've texted him many times and I've called him many times on things, and I try to get information to him and then get information back. So you're welcome to do that at any time.
And my phone's always on too. You can call the office. I get my voicemail from the office on my phone. I'm available 24/7. I've answered Zeb on a Saturday morning in November, December, right? So my phone's on 24/7.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
I guess one more deal. So if we do clean cattle guards, us as landowners, can we bill the county $300?
No, you can't.
So it's only a one-way street. You just said this is
It's an agreement that was agreed to a long time ago. County is taking on the biggest share of the cost of that.
I understand that, Mr. Chairman. What I am saying is we would be taking on the bigger share if we cleaned them ourselves and then instead of the county.
What do you figure it's gonna cost you to clean them?
I can rent a backhoe for $500 a day. I mean, it won't. 1,500 is probably more than enough. I mean, if they said
You would prefer to clean yourself?
well,
rather than have
am
the
I
county
going to be liable? Am I going to have to carry liability insurance on my cattle guards if I touch them? That is the number one concern. That is my biggest concern over cattle guards. I don't have a problem cleaning them myself, but I cannot carry the liability insurance in case somebody was, if I messed up the cattle guard and it was too much gravel on one side or it wasn't set in there correct and somebody wrecked on it, and then they can hold me liable. That is the biggest concern about our cattle guards. Yes, we want them clean. We need them clean to keep our cattle separated. But the big deal is if we do it ourselves and somebody wrecks on it, we can't get liability insurance for them. And that is our
Mr.
biggest.
Hoffman, it doesn't make sense to me that if you can have the highway department clean it for $300, that you would take on that expense yourself to do it.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner LaCroix.
I agree with Gary on this. I mean, personally, from the standpoint of labor and time, I think 300 is a heck of a deal myself. When you start figuring the travel time, equipment rental, the hours, I think that's a heck of a deal.
Deb, I don't think you're gonna get your cattle guards and your money on the cattle guards, I'm just saying. And I know you're fighting like hell, but, sir, I don't, based on our policy and what we're doing, and I think, I'll keep saying it, Zeb, quit being stubborn and find some solution with that culvert and those cattle guards out there, both you guys. I'll keep saying it, we've made other people happy working with those solutions.
I just have one more question for the commission. If the cattle guards are broken or irreparable, how much does the landowner have to pay to put a new one in? Or
I have to refer back to Joe on what the policy is.
So I got to pull up that policy. I don't recall. We haven't had to do that quite yet. So,
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Anyhow, what I want to say is that I know that ranching's a hard life, and I appreciate you guys doing what you do. And I know that sometimes the margins can be slim, and you do it year after year and year after year and generations and generations. So I just want to say I appreciate the hard work.
thank you.
so the replacement, get to it here. So the replacement, the Pennington County Highway shall determine in cooperation with the affected landowners when a livestock guard needs to be replaced. The benefited landowners shall be responsible for the cost of all required materials, and the county shall perform the installation and be responsible for the costs associated therewith. So as I believe we were working with Mr. Shear here a month or so ago, 2 months ago, that cost, we compromised on that one. I believe it was about $10,000 to put for the materials for the cattle guard.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. I think the advice that Commissioner Hadcock provided is good advice. I think that, you know, Commissioner Lassiter stepped up and said he would continue to work on this conversation to try to come to some kind of answer. And I think Joe has indicated his willingness to be a part of that, so.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Items from the public. Anybody from the public here that has items they'd like to bring to the commission? Seeing none, we'll go to items from the commission members.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lassiter.
I'll just give you an update on the PFAS, PFOA issue still. Still kind of working through some of that. The Air Force did just recently publish the most recent document for the rehabilitation of the area, the restoration plan, and it's open for public review up until July 9th. If anybody wants that information, they're welcome to contact me. I can send that out to them. But now that we're in that particular process, I'm meeting with the author of that particular document on Wednesday to ask some very specific questions. So again, I don't have any full answers for the Board of Commission or any kind of recommendation until all this kind of goes through. But just letting you know, I'm still working through that process and getting as much information as possible. To include, I was on the phone mostly yesterday with the EPA, the Department of Ag, the Department of Veterinary Services, and working to talk to USD Veterinary Services. So there's a long list of stuff that I'm researching on this, but I'll bring that to you to the board as soon as I have it all finalized.
Any other items from commission members?
Chairman. So, bylaws for the building committee, we're still working on that with Jay, me and Holly and Mike Cool. Bringing forth some of that. You'll see some of the changes also through his, which would be building committee Mike Cool's budget, and how that affects with our bylaws. And then the donor signs for panhandling, we've sent those to the sheriff, and that should be coming forward. The signs and some of the public broadcasting from Helene should be coming forward in the next month or two. So just updating you on that we haven't forgot it. We're just working through the size of the signs and some of what that message should be.
Okay, any other?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Roskinek?
Yesterday, I attended a 2-hour meeting at the Hill City Senior Citizen Center. The city planning and zoning in Hill City, they're planning on, they're working on vacation rentals. Evidently, they think it's getting a little out of control, driving the price of homes up. And so anyhow, that was a 2-hour meeting. I went there just to basically listen. They're talking about changing some of their zoning, and the majority of the people that were there are probably owners of vacation home rentals. I attended another meeting in City Hall about a week and a half ago, and I'm on a committee to working on workforce housing in the Hill City community. And so right now, there's a couple of mobile home parks in Hill City that's probably where your lowest that would be your workforce housing, I guess is what I'm trying to say. One of those mobile home parks could actually come up for sale, and we've heard that if it does sell, it might not continue as a mobile home park. The majority of the people that live in that park, they work in the grocery store and the hardware store and different restaurants. So we're trying to reach out to the owners to see if those properties might be something that would be for sale in the future.
So Commissioner Ross, that Hill City Prevailer, if you read on the vacation home rentals, it's very interesting because I think it affects like 20 people, it said, and it's pretty interesting to read. What Ron's talking about, or Commissioner Roskinek, it's in the Hill City Prevailer, what they talked about. It's pretty interesting how much it's affecting Hill City and other areas. So
Sure.
Totally understand they're letting it stay in commercial and stuff. It's those residential areas that they're starting, and I think they'll probably limit based on those 20 people that it would be affecting.
Their proposal is to take a neighborhood and identify the neighborhood, and then take no more than 8% of that neighborhood could be used for occasional rentals. And a lot of the people in attendance yesterday said, you know what? It's the it's the market that is. You just can't change the market. I mean, obviously, a lot of us were in our 50s, 60s, and 70s, and you know we don't like change, but it's obvious change is coming, and when you get the dollars that are coming in from the East Coast and the West Coast, money talks. So as much as we don't like what's happening, we can try to control it, but we're not going to stop it.
Yep.
Okay, I would suggest that we have a motion to move item 21, committee reports, behind item 23, since we're running behind.
So moved.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Laster, a second from Commissioner Ross Connect, to move item 21 to follow item 23 on the agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 22, vouchers. We have vouchers in the amount of $2,037,577.01.
Move approval.
Got a motion from Commissioner LaCroix to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Hadcock. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're now at item 23, items from planning and zoning. And again, just remind people there are speaker request forms in the back of the room, should you want to speak on any of the items coming up. So I would take a motion now to move to the Board of Adjustment.
Move to approve, move to, go to the Board of Adjustment.
I got Commissioner Laster making a motion, second by
Second.
Commissioner Hadcock. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, I think we need a break. We don't have any planning staff here.
Oh,
Okay.
They
5-minute
take-
break.
5 minute?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Move for a 5-minute break.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. 5-minute break. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're under Board of Adjustment. We'll go to variance A.
Cusack, Environmental Planner. Item A is variance VA 21-11. It is to reduce a front yard setback from 25 feet to 2 feet for a proposed garage. The applicant owner is Dennis Kamick, and the agent is Fist Land Surveying. Both are in the audience if there are any questions. When approving variances, we look at a two-prong approach. For prong number one, whether granting the variance runs counter to public interest. Number one, the request does not appear to be a nuisance to the neighborhood. Number two, garages are a typical use with a building permit. However, garages in the area appear to meet the required 25-foot setback. Number three, the zoning ordinance requires a 25-foot setback. Number four does not apply. Number five, placement of the garage within the requested setback could potentially harm public safety. The proposed road garage could limit the view on the road corner, and County Highway has concerns with road departure. Talking with the applicant's agent today, the garage is going to be 25 feet from the driving surface of the road. Prong number two, whether a special condition exists to grant the variance. Topography is sloping towards the road. Physical conditions exist that could warrant an approval of this request, and the buildable area is limited due to topography. With that, staff is recommending denial of the variance. There is a special condition that exists on the property. However, staff has concerns with public safety. If approved, staff recommends one condition, and that is that this variance only applies to the 28 by 28 proposed garage.
So Cody, this was before the Planning Commission yesterday?
For a conditional use permit to have an accessory structure as a primary, since there's not a current house on the residence or on the property.
Okay. They also discussed the setback.
There was concern with it. Talking with Janelle this morning, the setback to the property line will be 2 feet, but from the driving surface of the road, the structure will be 25 feet.
Okay. Any questions of Cody on this? Janelle is here also. Janelle, would you like to come forward? Thank you.
Could you pop that picture up?
if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. Oh, super, that's great. Good morning, Janelle Fink. I'm with Fisk Land Surveying, and I'm here on behalf of Denny and Wyon Kamick. They are requesting a variance to reduce that front setback on a proposed garage. The lot that they own now has some severe topographic constraints. It's a little bit difficult to see in this picture here. Let's see, let's try this. Oh, I'm not gonna get anything. Oh, it's not on the screen. There is a huge rock outcropping just to the left side of the photo frame here. I actually have a little different picture that I could circulate or give to you real quick.
I think we may have that, Janelle.
I pass these out.
Thank you.
This is one of those lots that is super questionable in terms of any kind of building site or potential. There's a huge rock outcropping that in the photo that I handed you that you see in the background there, and it's 10 to 15 feet high and just rock, solid rock all the way through. There's a small area in front of that, and the proposed garage has some rebar and stakes there, and I've kind of circled in red on the drawing. So they're going to try to tuck it back as far as they can. Conservatively, they would need that 2-foot setback. They visited with their contractor. If they have the ability to push it back even a little bit into the rock, they will, but they don't know what they're going to run into in terms of bedrock and those types of things. But the actual location of the garage, again, is about 20 feet, close to 25 feet off of the edge of the driving surface of the road. The visibility is actually really good. This picture here that is on the screen right now shows there's significant visibility from the road coming to the west. The owners actually removed several trees. And when they actually applied for their approach permit and received that from Pennington County, so the approach permit is in place for this. And they did ask for a couple other extra trees to be removed, so they complied with that. So they've actually improved the condition. The garage will not obstruct visibility from the roadway in any fashion. And there just really isn't any other way to use this lot. I mean, it's virtually unusable. The Kamicks own 2 other lots. Their residence is located 2 lots to the west. So it will be used in association with their residents. It's not like this is an off-site garage that is not going to be used as part of their property, but it is on a standalone lot. So this is really the best means for them to be able to develop this, and probably the most limited. This is like an accessory storage structure, so it's not like people driving in and out every day and utilizing it. It's for their extra toys, or if you will, or extra vehicles. So we would just hope that you would look at the circumstances of this situation and support the requested variance. If you have any questions, I'd be
Mr.
happy.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Roskinek.
I did a site inspection. I lived in this area for about 23 years, from 1976 to 1992. And this used to be the old Highway 44. And now it's just a secondary arterial used for the platted lots in that area. And the applicant and I looked at another spot that they wanted to put the garage. It would have been a better spot for them. But because they would have had to purchase some land from the neighbor, and the neighbor just said, I'm not ready to sell. So they've already spent a lot of money trying to make this work. And I agree that this is probably the most logical and feasible spot to put this garage. Ironically enough, when they bought the property, the warranty deed stated 3 lots, and then we know that Shannon eventually took each one of those lots and assigned each one an ID number. And so I did some research, and there's homes up there on lots that are twice this big, overlooking Rapid Creek, that are assessed within a few $1,000s of this lot. This lot is assessed at roughly $60,000. And lots with homes in the immediate area are assessed at 62 and 63. And so I guess what I'm saying is I'm in favor of this particular variance with 2 conditions. One would be only the detached garage, and one would be adequate culvert to facilitate drainage.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair.
Any questions? Commissioner LaCroy?
I agree with Mr. Roskinick's findings. So I'd move for approval of the variance request. Let me start over. I move to approve variance 21-11 because granting the variance doesn't run counter to the public interest, and special conditions do exist with the topography and the way things are set up. And I believe the ordinance, that excuse of literal enforcement of the ordinance would cause unnecessary hardship by not being able to use the property. And by granting the variance, not only does it observe the ordinance spirit, but also ensures substantial justice is done.
Second that
Have a motion and a second.
Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock?
So I see the hardship, but I also see, Joe, can you come up here for a second? So does this road have enough room to expand in the future?
Probably not. There's 66 foot of right of way there, but you expand that, now you're going to be encroaching into that
Right into there.
even further into that setback, and we might end up with a similar situation as we had on Old Hill City Road, where somebody had to remove the deck. I think that setback was within a couple feet, also, correct?
That's my only problem with putting these this close. And if they could work something out where it would somehow either rearrange the garage or something, because if you're looking at this picture, people are parking right next to the road and the garage is pulling in right next to the road. So what happens when we have to take that right away out of there?
Well, and
We have that similar situation in Rapid City where, remember, you're putting people's houses right next to the road and they're madder than heck because they chose that setback and we let them have that setback. And as much as I like granting it because there isn't anywhere they could really build it, Janelle, it also makes it very unsafe later and letting people park their stuff like right next to a road. And then who's the liability on if they slide into it? Or it's, to me, if this was not a busy road or this wasn't a road that wouldn't be expanded in the future, but we just talked about the infrastructure. We talked about Old Hill City Road. We talked about these roads that what's happening is we're getting these big developments and we're getting more and more people traveling on these roads. And our roads are too small already. We're going to have to expand them. Is this a road that you see expanding just because of the development and stuff anytime in the future?
it's not on our 5-year plan currently.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
So the bottom line is, sorry, Ron, I don't want to be opposed to it because I think you should be able to build. I'm just afraid that in the future, we go buy this house, we'll be going by right next to the road.
Not a house.
It's a garage,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? You pull into a garage, that's where you put your stuff, that's where you put your toys, that's where you're going to pull into to get into your house.
Excuse
This,
me.
this,
Can-
just,
Janelle,
Can I clarify? Their
Yeah.
house is 2 lots over, and their garage that they use for it is attached to that. So they're not going to park here and walk up the road to their house. This is
how far back, Miss Janelle? So if you see the sign, the green
Right.
signs and stuff, and I see where the yellow stake is on the other side, where's the garage in that proportion to this road? If you take 25 feet,
Okay.
that's not very far to the left of this, right?
if you I
think-
I can't point on that screen there, but if you look around,
Okay.
the garage is back in this area in here. The one corner of it starts right here, and then the rest of it's going to be off screen over on this side over here. So it's back in this area here.
And where's the house, Janelle?
The house is around the corner. This is their driveway to the house. It goes up here in this area here. So this is where they park and where their cars that they use on a daily basis. This is an accessory structure garage. Again, boats, toys, that kind of thing.
Like the one across the street.
This is their regular garage here. They're parking their stuff off to the side here, and they're actually parking right up to the edge. it would be much better to have a garage that your stuff is inside of rather than parking it right here like this.
And as much as I want to agree with
Yeah.
you, that doesn't really happen. And it's
And
on a curve. So what happens, Janelle, if we pull that road out by the green sign and they have their garage there? And then they're going to come in and tell us, well, you know, I have a 2 feet setback here from a road. We need to expand. We had to buy the right of way. We had to buy a bunch of stuff. Is there room? Here's the bottom line. Across from this lot, does somebody own that, or do we
Yeah.
have room to expand on the other side? Meaning, you already know, Joe, if we have to take the other side and not get, we've done that before too, where we hadn't put it right next to their house. We had to go across the street.
so Commissioner Hadcock, most of the lots in this whole area, in this Forest Homes development, are already developed out and platted. This isn't like there's big chunks of unplatted area where somebody's going to come in and develop 20 other lots in this area. This connects through and circles over and connects back into Johnson Siding. And again, most of these lots are platted already, and most of them are 1 to 3 acres in size in just kind of general in this area. So the potential to subdivide comes, you know, for somebody to do additional development comes with having to rezone and do lesser density. And you already have a 66-foot wide right-of-way here, which is standard county. There's a lot of roads out there that don't even have the 66-foot right-of-way. Personally, the road's in good condition, and I can't imagine that for the number of people that are served by this, that they're going to come in and find a need to expand or widen out the road. That
Janelle, tell me
doesn't really
about
make sense.
the drainage then that comes through there, because
Yeah,
you already know,
there's-
will it wash out their driveway?
No, they have to put a culvert in. That's part of the requirement. Culvert would be placed here. This is kind of about where the approach would be for the drive. Culvert would be placed here, and so it's not going to wash out.
Joe, can you tell me why you guys opposed to it then? Because your 5-year plan isn't, you know, you don't have this on the radar. The culvert, they're gonna put a culvert in.
Right, we're trying to look out 20, 30, 40 years, and this road has no shoulders or anything on it, so as you're saying, expanding, we're probably not gonna expand it to a 3-lane, but at some point it might get shoulders or something like that on it. And when we were out there, Janelle, that's the sign that's in the picture here. There's also a rebar stake that kind of lined up with the other 3. I'm assuming that's where the corner of the garage is going, correct?
Yeah, I think the front corner is going to be around in here, and then it'll be,
Okay,
the
so
garage is situated back over in here.
there's a rebar stake right behind the sign that's there,
Okay.
and then there's 3 other stakes. So I'm assuming that's where the garage is sitting. So that's one of the front corners of the garage. Now, looking at the drainage while we're out there, yeah, the main drainage comes around, but there's also, looks like some secondary drainage that comes closer to the rock face. Is that correct?
Primary is right in this area here. This is really just kind of localized, more shaping. Everything's essentially coming down from here and running down this way. The stuff here is more, again, just localized. There's just kind of a minor swale in this area here that they'll probably reshape when they put the garage in. But
So-
again, it's in the ditch
So
section.
Janelle, does that slope, is that coming down a hill?
Yes.
And you're gonna put a garage,
Here.
and Joe's right, you're gonna put a garage
Here.
sloping with a drainage sloping coming down a hill
No.
right in its way.
They can reshape. This is just a minor swell. It doesn't mean that it's, just because there's a depression doesn't mean that it's carrying a bunch of drainage. We have, dips and rises in all kinds of areas that don't really carry drainage. Drainage is coming down here. This will require a culvert to be sized appropriately, which the landowners are willing to do. And whatever they do here, they're going to shape and level this out to the best extent possible. They'll try to push it back if they can, but there's, again, extreme bedrock in this area, so it's very difficult. If you deny them this, they really have no use on this lot. It's a no-use lot, and you guys have been collecting taxes, like Mr. Roskinick pointed out, on evaluation of a $60,000 lot for how many years this has been in place, and this is the first time that somebody's attempting to, create a modest use for it.
If they didn't pay it for, because it was a drainage lot, we'd actually take it over, but I'm
It's
just
not a
worried
drainage
about.
lot.
Well, Highway and Sean's been doing this for a while, and I also see that it would, once you dig in something and it comes down into something, Janelle, you already know, they're not just gonna put a structure there, they're gonna have to landscape around it and do some things to it. And we've tried this before in the county, and what happens is then they call Joe or Sean and say, all your gravel, my gravel's going into the drainage, it's your fault, clean it out. So when you're building that close, I truly believe, from seeing the slope of this, you're gonna have a drainage issue blocking it with a garage.
When you build appropriately, you will not. You will swale around it like you do. People build up against, okay, here's a hillside coming down here. If somebody were to build a split level home here, you'd swale around the sides of it. It doesn't, that's how you handle your minor drainage issues. There's no major drainage coming down here. The major drainage is all in the ditch section adjacent to the road.
For
You
the
have
driveway.
66 feet of right-of-way, which accommodates a standard typical county road, including shoulders and ditch sections.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, oh,
Commissioner Roskinek.
I might add that there was a couple neighbors that don't live far from Denny, and they called me and asked me to call them back. And one of them I've worked with before, getting a variance for his garage. And another one I worked with in years past. And they were really concerned about what Deb's concerned. And so I let Denny know. Denny contacted him. They went down to his house, and they got a letter here saying after meeting with Denny yesterday morning and discussing his request for a conditional use permit on site, we withdraw our June 10th, 2021 letter because they didn't have a problem with it. So it makes a lot of difference if you're on the site and you actually see what's going on, because it's hard to do it from here, and that's why I took it upon myself to make sure that I went and did a personal inspection, or I wouldn't be recommending it.
Yes, thank you very much.
Further
Yes,
questions of Janelle?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
I have a couple
Lassiter.
of questions. So hearing all this, and I don't think I heard anybody ask this question, from the road to the front of the garage, how far is that going to be?
roughly about 25 feet. From the edge, from this edge of the road, the traveled way, back to where the garage starts is about 25 feet.
So hearing what you said, this is going to be storage for accessory stuff, ATVs, boat, things of that nature. Is that what the plan is, roughly?
I don't know the extent of all of their accessory structures, but yes, it's.
My concern is if you have, whether it's an RV or whether it's a boat, because of that corner, and I back trailers all the time, you're gonna have to stop in the road to push it back. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you can pull onto the property to then back it up unless you're gonna put something along so they can pull onto the property and then back it in there. I see that he'd have to be on the road to then back it in there. Am I correct in that assumption?
I don't know that they're planning on putting an RV in there. The size of the garage wouldn't accommodate
RV
that.
or boat? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, a boat trailer too.
Well, typically, yeah, you would have to back in.
So Chairman.
And that would be typical of anybody that, in any home that has an accessory garage, unless you're 100 feet off the front of the lot, you're gonna have to back in if you've got a trailer with something. But again, this is not a super high-traffic road. This is just a local collector road that's, quiet residential neighborhood.
Dennis, would you like to come forward and explain how you plan on using the structure?
Commissioners, good morning. Denny Kamick, owner of the property here. We live in Mitchell right now half the time and rep in here half the time. In another year, we plan on moving here full time. And back home, I have a 1966 Ford pickup, which my dad bought brand new. I found it in the trees and had it restored. It's going to be one of the Sunday afternoon drives in the hills is what I had planned. So I'm planning to put that in there. And I have a side-by-side that's right now in my shop in the other garage. And I'm going to take that side-by-side during the winter months and put it down there so I can use my shop the way I would like to use the shop. And there's a whole lot between this lot and the other lot. And so it's not very convenient. It's not something I'm going to run up and down every day. It's just going to be used for that and probably, other storage, but I don't have a motorhome, never plan on having one. There's a boat setting up there, but that's my son's, and he just does that to get the light back toll in the daytime, but he's not gonna use the garage. The garage is not gonna be big enough for that boat that he has anyway, so.
So Chairman,
Commissioner Hadcock.
okay, so from the middle of the road, Joe, can you answer me a question? So the middle of the road to the pavement of the end of that road, how far is it?
You're talking here to here?
Because you said from the middle of the road, there's a 33-foot on each side, right?
We've got 33 feet of right of way, correct? So
Okay.
the center of the road, center of that yellow double line to the edge of the road, I don't know exactly. It's most likely 10 foot, depending on the road section. Most of our roads are 10 foot or 20-foot road section, you know, so it's fairly
Setback
narrow.
starts at the edge of the road to 25 feet away from it, or?
So you got
that's
10
what I'm
foot
wondering.
and then you got, so your property line is 23 feet from edge of road.
It's around in here.
So the edge of the road is there.
No, this is the property, roughly the property line / the edge of the right of way.
So that's the right of way, and you're gonna be 2 feet off of that
Yes.
building, and the corner of the garage is gonna be right there.
Yes.
So
the garage
your
is here.
driveway is gonna have to be in the 33-foot right of way in order to cross that road, and then his corner is gonna be right on it. So you can see where the corner, if that's the green garage, or where the garage would be at the corner, you have 33 feet, which is right where then basically he's right 2 feet from the road that it would be, meaning his driveway or his gravel, whatever, and his culvert is gonna have to be right in that space that she's talking about.
So, you know, I
Does that make sense?
what he uses it for is great, but when he goes to sell it, the next person, what are they going to use it for? If they subdivide or if they sell just that lot with the structure, what's going to happen? It's kind of what we were looking forward to as well. Also, I guess, you know, if you got two things in this garage, say you drive the side by side or you drive something else down or you come from town and you stop there, that vehicle is going to be in the right of way because there's no way to get it out away from the road. That's just another thought as well.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
I might add that, you know, this looks like a highway. I mean, it looks like Highway 44, but it's not Highway 44. This thing is basically a driveway. The speed limit, you can see it in my pictures, it's 20 miles an hour. It's not Jackson Boulevard. It's not Mountain View. And you're not going to see growth there because it is fully grown. There is, unless you decide you can go down the 1/3 acre lots, this is maxed out. So these are the things that I looked at before I decided to go for this variance. I don't see it as a problem. We can make it a problem, but it really isn't a problem.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner LaCroy.
I agree with Ron. The last year and a half, I spent probably more time out in the hills than I have in a lifetime. Cruising around, driving in the areas because I bought property out there. And I agree, some of these, and you can see from just the house across the street, these people know what their traffic is. If it was dangerous, he wouldn't be parking his like he is there. That's just part of the things that you get used to with the limited use of your properties in those areas. You go into town, as Ron said, you got people that are parking in the streets, but I think the guy's making a good effort to use what property he has to the best of its ability. I mean, that's why I supported made the motion, was because I think he's paying taxes, putting a garage on it, making it worth its while in order to use it for an accessory. So I just wanted to explain, it's, we kind of get in the mindset that there's a lot of traffic from being in the city, but I think there's more than adequate space.
Further discussion? Anyone else wish to speak relative to this? Seeing and hearing none, the motion is by Commissioner LaCroy, second by Commissioner Roskinek. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call vote.
Hadcock,
No.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Lassiter,
Aye.
Ross Connect,
Aye.
Drews.
Aye, motion carried 4-1.
Thank you.
Item B.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Molitor, Planning Director. Item B is variance VA 21-12 to reduce the setback for a residential zoning district from 500 feet to 100 feet for a telecommunications tower. This property is 3.08 acres. It is zoned Highway Service District. It is located off of Highway 385. Currently, the property contains a small coffee shop, commercial. It is surrounded to the south by Forest Service, to the east of Rural Residential District, and to the north, there are some other residential structures. When considering variances and whether granting a variance is counter to the public interest, we look at a two-prong approach. In prong one, does it injure the neighborhood? The request does not appear to be a threat of nuisance to the neighborhood. Does it conform to the neighborhood? Telecommunication structures are not common in the area. However, telecommunications support structures are allowed in highway service districts in accordance with Section 316 of the Pennington County zoning ordinance. Does it conform to general purpose of the ordinance? The zoning ordinance requires a 500-foot setback for the construction of telecommunication support structures near residential zoning districts. Does it harm the public safety, health, or general welfare? Placement of telecommunication support structures within required setback does not appear to harm the community. If you look, this telecommunication will provide first responders, police officers, firefighters, and EMTs an area that does not have reliable connectivity. Allowing this variance would allow a communications tower that would provide the necessary cell phone coverage. For a prong two approach, this telecommunication support structures must be sited in areas that provide adequate cell phone coverage. The topography and location provide service to an area that otherwise does not have adequate, reliable cell phone coverage. If a special condition exists, does it enforcing the ordinance create an unnecessary hardship? This area has significant deficiency in cell phone coverage. At this time, first responders, police officers, firefighters, and EMTs in the area do not have reliable connectivity. And if the special circumstance exists, does granting this variance observe the ordinance spirit while doing substantial justice? Allowing this variance would allow a telecommunications tower and provide cell phone coverage to an area that does not currently have reliable coverage. Allowing this telecommunications tower will provide reliable cell phone coverage to first responders, police officers, firefighters, and EMTs. This was routed around through the interdepartmental review. No items of concern were noted. Just one item of note, I have spoke to Sheriff Tome about this request, and he is in support of this request due to the lack of cell phone coverage in the area. The applicant has has requested this variance in order to construct this tower. A telecommunications facility permit must also be obtained from the Planning Commission prior to construction of this. Staff is recommending approval as they feel there is a special condition on this property. And I recommend that there's two conditions be included, that this variance only apply to the telecommunication support structure, and that prior to submittal of a building permit, an easement is obtained from the property owner to the west to allow a buffer area for the communications tower.
Okay, and we do have, go ahead, Commissioner.
I'm just going to say that I drive by that coffee shop every day, and nothing's more frustrating to lose the signal if you're trying to make a phone call. By the time I get to Hill City, it drops. So that is really a needed tower, and I think Sheriff Thorne will confirm that. Especially if you think you're in an emergency situation, you lose your signal.
A motion
I do have a speaker, Jonah Snyder is here. Jonah, would you like to come forward, please? Thank you.
Yes. Thanks for your time today, Commissioners. My name's Jonah. I'm with Elevated Towers. We're the company that would own the structure itself and then lease it out to various carriers. We've been working closely with AT&T. AT&T has an obligation with Federal FirstNet program, and so they have to populate a certain percentage of the country, rural areas, with connectivity, specifically for the intention of providing service for what's already been mentioned, first responders, police officers, EMTs. And so they've been working in this area for several years to identify a potential tower site and have been unsuccessful for various different reasons. We've been very fortunate to be able to work with the Owens, Donnet, the landowners here today, and they are in favor of the tower. And so this tower will first and foremost be able to provide coverage for first responders, people from the county who need it. Obviously, there's a lot of businesses around here. You can see there's a campground. The Prairie Berry Winery is just to the west out of frame on that map. It's a pretty well-trafficked junction of between 16 and 385. People on their way to Lake Sheridan and Hill City. So this will provide for a great, it's a public safety benefit, obviously, with first responders having that connectivity. But also, I think it's an economic benefit to the people in the community. People like the Owens who haven't had cell service in the entirety of the time that they've lived in this area. And there's a number of homes you can't see here that are just over to the east. So the tower needs to be placed where it's placed because RF engineers have identified a coverage footprint that makes its way going east and west on Highway 385 as well to the south with Highway 16. So the height of the tower is necessary and the location of the tower is necessary for AT&T to be able to meet their FirstNet obligations.
So, Chairman?
If you have any questions about FirstNet, there's good resources about it on the FCC's
Commissioner
website.
Hadcock.
I agree with staff's findings and make the motion based on staff findings that we approve with the two conditions.
Got a motion, is there a
Second.
second? And a second by Commissioner LaCroy, passed by Commissioner Lassiter. Question for you, John.
Yeah.
So I see that, this is AT&T. Is this then open to other carriers to?
Yeah, so one of the Pennington County ordinance requirements is that if we build a telecommunications structure, it has to support up to 4 carriers. And so we anticipate that Verizon and T-Mobile won't be far behind, that they would also be able to go on the structure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Further discussion, questions? Not, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C.
Cody Stack, Environmental Planner. Item C is subdivision regulation variance SV 21-12. It is to waive the requirement to dedicate and improve a section line right-of-way. The landowner and applicant is Dale and Luann Russell. Their surveyor is Ferber Engineering. Access to the property is off Forest Road, and there is 100-year floodplain on the property. When approving variances, we take a two-prong approach. Prong one, whether granting the variance runs counter to public interest. For number one, does it injure the neighborhood? No. Proposed lots 1 and 2 will have access off Forest Road. Number 2, the neighborhood is residential in nature. Improved rights of way do exist to provide access to the proposed lots. Number 3, where a section line right-of-way or a portion of section line right-of-way is located within a new subdivision or adjoining any portion of a new subdivision, the entire 66 feet of the section line right-of-way shall be dedicated or improved by the developer. Number 4, the current comprehensive plan identifies the property as suburban residential district. The proposed lot sizes will meet the requirement for suburban residential. Number 5, Forest Road is an existing right-of-way that is used to provide access to proposed lots 1 and 2 for emergency purposes. Prong number 2, whether special conditions exist to grant the variance. Topography of the section line is higher than the rest of the subject property. Also, access to the proposed lots is provided by an improved right-of-way off of Forest Road. Requiring of the section line to be improved and dedicated would require the applicant to construct a second access road to the property when existing access exists. This was brought around for interdepartment review. No objections or concerns were received. Approval of this variance will satisfy condition number 2 of minor plat MPL 21-20. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of SV 21-12.
Chairman, go ahead, Lloyd.
Commissioner Lassiter. Commissioner LaCroy.
The 2 L's.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with the staff's report on prongs 1 and 2 and recommend approval of the subdivision regulation variance SV 21-12.
Second with follow-up.
I have a Motion by Commissioner LaCroy, second by Commissioner Hadcock. Commissioner Hadcock.
So you said there isn't a second access, as there is?
So there's already access to the property. By dedicating and improving that section line, you'd be granting a second access to properties that already have access.
Okay, so they don't need that second access, they already have one.
Correct.
Okay, I just misunderstood you. Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chair, move to close Board of Adjustment.
Second.
We got a motion to close Board of Adjustment, move back to.
Second.
I got a motion and a second by Commissioner LaCroy and second by, I think, Commissioner Hadcock first.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item D.
Item D is second reading of ordinance number 727 for Pennington County, a temporary ordinance regarding the issuance of local medical cannabis establishment permits or licenses or both. Planning Commission recommended approval of ordinance number 727, and the Board of Commissioners approved the first reading of this ordinance on June 2nd, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Motion by Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner Lassiter. Is there any comments relative to this? Any further discussion by the commission? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item E.
Afternoon, Commissioners. Jason Thennison, Assistant Planning Director. Agenda item E is vacation of section line right-of-way, VS 21-03, to vacate a portion of the 33-foot wide section line right-of-way located in tracts B1, B2, Common Lot B, and Lot 6 of Rockerville Ghost Town subdivision, located in the southwest quarter of Section 13. This is just a general map of the area that we're looking at. It's basically Rockerville, and these are the section lines in question specific to this request. Is going to be this portion of section line here. Staff does utilize the two-prong approach when they're basing their recommendations. I'll start with the first one. I'll read the responses. They are on the screen if you can follow along. Starting with prong one, number one, Highway 16 South and Main Street, Rockerville, provide arterial access to the neighborhood. Number two, yes, the neighborhood is currently being developed for residential use. Combination of existing and proposed rights of way will provide access to all existing and future lots. Number three, no. Along every section line, there is a public right-of-way located by operation of law to provide access to adjoining property. Vacating this portion of section line will not limit access to any adjoining properties. Number four, the current comprehensive plan identifies the properties as planned unit development district. Number five, no, existing and proposed rights of way will provide access to all existing and future lots in the community. And prong number two, whether special conditions exist to grant the request. Staff finds no, there are no special conditions that exist. The requested vacation is to allow for future residential development in the area. Again, just to kind of clarify which portion of the section line we're talking about here is going to be in section 13. And with that, staff, the request was sent out for interdepartmental review. County Highway did have comments stating that the Highway Department is opposed to vacating any section lines that do not serve the public's best interest. Black Hills Cooperative also had a comment, and I have a photo go along with this. There are overhead power lines that go through this section line, but Black Hills Cooperative did state that there's an easement on file for these utilities, so they're not opposed to it. According to South Dakota State Law 31-3-6, in order to vacate a portion of section lines, signatures from 1% of the ballots cast in the last gubernatorial election are required. That is required to 417 signatures based on 41,670 votes cast. Sorry. The Pennington County Auditor's Department did verify on April 27th that they did get the required signatures. With that, Staff recommends denial of the request. However, if the Board of Adjustment disagrees and approves the request, staff recommends one condition be included. That be that all necessary resolutions and exhibits vacating the section line right-of-way be recorded by the applicant at the Register of Deeds office.
Questions of Jason? Hearing none, is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter?
Chairman.
Doug? Thank you.
Let those
Come on
guys-
forward.
I asked Jason a question before they,
Sure.
okay, so did you say, Jason, I thought I read on there that this was right away for other people? Tell me why staff did not put denial on this, or why they put denial on this?
So we recommend it now because it's not in the public's interest. It's in the landowner's interest to develop the property.
Right, but does everybody have access to their properties, and is it used, a well-used section line at this point?
According to the planned unit development that was submitted and the plans that went along with it, there are planned roadways to go through there that will serve all the proposed lots.
Okay, thank you. I'll just ask. Thank you, Jason.
Any other questions, Jason?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Just curious because he made that
Brian,
comment.
come on.
Brian
Doug?
Hammerbeck and Doug Bell. Go ahead, Doug. That's okay.
Doug? Let me pose a question, and you can tell us what you want to tell us, but answer the question then too. Consequences if this is not approved for you?
Location of several buildings in one of the section line areas, and also our roadway that would go in and serve the adjoining 75 lots that are going to be developed. So we'd have to be back in, I guess, to go through and get an approval to bring a roadway, which is not really in alignment with the way we want to develop our lots, but we'd have to come through and ask for approval to go up that section line with the roadway. We're hoping to keep the roadways not like a major thoroughfare. We're trying to keep it more of a residential type setting. We're afraid we might fall under that type of a requirement. But more importantly, there's lots that we would not be able to access. That and the red section he has right there has a major rock formation in it. So we're trying to work around it. We've actually curved our road out of that right-of-way area. The other right-of-way that's up along the Forest Service land has also a major rock formation. We have no intention to use it. We're just trying to clean up these section line pieces that go through there. There's a possibility that one lot may come up and touch right in the middle of that particular section line area. So yes, there is consequences for us. The road that you can see coming in there right now to the right is just outside of the section line, but as it goes on up through the valley, it does encroach on the section line. If you would have followed where you see the green pipe coming up with the blue bucket on top of it, that would be the right-of-way, that would be the section line right-of-way. However, up where there's a white trailer in the background there, that's where we want to place a building. We would encroach on the right-of-way there. Our point is, if it wasn't vacated. Our issue is that there's 7 different points of ingress and egress into Rockerville. Stacy Bartlett at the DOT has talked to us frequently because they're trying to figure out with the HDR Highway 16 corridor study how to change it. Already the county or someone has invested a substantial investment on South Rockerville Road. When you turn south off of eastbound 16 or you turn left off of Main Street and follow South Rockerville Road, there is a substantial cut through a huge rock formation already constructed. We can't see how there's any benefit, and I know that the highway department, because I talked to Mr. Miller, they got to look at the long term. But right now, if you go through the Highway 16 corridor study, they're looking at it. They propose no changes to that access onto South Rockerville Road. There is a major rock formation along eastbound 16, both left and right, before you get to the South Rockerville Road. So what we're trying to do is, because it's a PUD, it gives us some flexibility to move things around. We've already constructed a building in there already. We're trying to make the PUD more of a residential neighborhood. We cannot see any possible way that there would ever be an exit, an entrance to Highway 16 at that point. There would be substantial grade changes between the elevation of Highway 16. It drops down into our property. And we just can't, in Highway 16, the main street, they want us to take that road over, so it would become a private street as part of the community, because they want to get out of that particular function of serving, maintaining that road through Rockerville. So we're entertaining that thought process right now. We haven't made any decisions on it because we're not sure what all of our liability is going to be, what our expense is going to be. But we are trying to create, I think, a neighborhood, a PUD that actually is a nice neighborhood, well-designed, but we don't want to create something that we would bring a major thoroughfare or section line road through there, right through the heart of the development.
Chairman.
Commissioner Adcock.
So, sir, at this point, you wouldn't be denying anybody access of the already existing properties, right?
None.
You're just taking them out, so
let's go back.
so it doesn't turn it in, the PUD doesn't, and the residents in that area aren't, the people coming in through the highways and everything aren't going to use it for basically more access to go from one side of the highway to the other.
No. Well, the south side development could go to the north side development, but
Right.
they can do that
That's our
anyway
stuff.
right now. Yeah, that's all our
Okay,
property.
so that's what I'm saying. The main thing is that everybody still has access with you taking out the section lines.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Could I just make one point about that?
Sure.
I think maybe I should.
Go ahead.
Okay, the one going east and west is along the Forest Service, but they have access off of that exit coming in off of Highway 16 on their portion. So I don't.
This piece is Forest Service.
Yeah, that piece of property is Forest Service right there. So I guess we're taking 33 foot of it, abandoning that or vacating that. They still have 33 foot on the other side, but they have really no use for that piece of property.
Yes.
They've even had conversations with us about doing some swapping because it's just a small little triangle of property there.
Even if our north section line is vacated, it does not limit access to that triangular Forest Service piece.
Okay.
Because they still got the 33 feet.
Okay. Commissioner Ross Connect.
Yeah, I think back, section lines were created hundreds of years ago for access and utilities. And then even in Rapid City, you're going to see all kinds of vacated because as progress migrates, section, they got to get, it's just, to me, it's just part of the procedure. And that section line, it could be an intangible, you can't really see it, but it just will be a 30-foot rock wall because because it's telling you what you can do and what you can't do. So I think there's a hardship in the fact that it's just there impeding progress.
Mr.
Commissioner LaCroix.
I would move to approve the vacation of section line right away, VS 21-03 with one condition.
Second.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Adcock. Further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to discuss 2104, or is that in this motion?
Nope, 2104 is separate. It's the next agenda.
Okay, all right.
Same slides.
The next item. Jason, back to Jason.
Agenda item F is vacation of section line right-of-way, VS 21-04, to vacate a portion of the 33-foot wide section line right-of-way located in the east half of the southeast quarter of section 14, south of Main Street and east of Highway 16 access ramp, located in the southwest quarter of section 14. And these are the section lines for this request. Again, staff uses a two-prong approach. This is going to be the same as the last one. Starting with number one of prong one, staff finds no Highway 16 South Main Street, Rockerville provided arterial access to the neighborhood. Number two, the neighborhood is currently being developed for residential use. A combination of existing and proposed rights of way will provide access to all existing and future lots. Number three, no Along every section line, there is public highway located by operation of law to provide access to adjoining property. Vacating this portion of section line will not limit access to any adjoining properties. Number 4, the current comprehensive plan identifies the properties as planned unit development district. Number 5, existing and proposed rights-of-way will provide access to all existing and future lots in the community. And prong 2, staff finds no, there are no special conditions that exist. The requested vacation is to allow for future residential development. And again, the auditor's office did verify the 417 signatures required. And with that, staff recommends denial of this request. If the Board of Adjustment disagrees and approves the request, staff recommends one condition be included.
So I make a motion to approve with that being to create an unnecessary hardship, keeping the section lines through the properties in order for these people to observe the spirit of the development that they're doing, and it creates substantial justice for them because they can create more lots and also provide more housing for people in Pennington County.
Got a motion by Commissioner Adcock. Is there a second? And a second by Commissioner Ross Connect. Further discussion. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Brian.
Thank
Doug.
you.
Thank you.
Move to go in the executive session.
Hold it. We're going to bring item 21 off the table. I don't think we need a motion to do it. We've moved it to this area. So item 21 is commission reports. Commissioner Laster.
All right, so first one I'm talking about is Rapid City Public Library Board. We just met the other day, and for the most part, the biggest thing to report from there is that the pop-up libraries started this summer, and they're doing really good. However, one of them has actually had to be shut down, the one over in Knollwood, due to the criminal activity that's going over there, due to safety concerns for the staff and everything. They're looking for an alternate area to put up the pop-up library, but everywhere that the pop-up libraries are, they're seeing good response from the local community and the need, and they're very thankful for those pop-up libraries. Outside of that, for the Rapid City Public Library Trustees Board, the only other thing to note was the Genealogy Society was asking for more shelf space for some of the historical books in the library, so there's going to be discussion on that. I also filled in at the Fire Service Board and the GSC meeting for Commissioner Hadcock, so I'll touch on those as well. I got the opportunity to ride down to Rochford Fire Department, just volunteer fire department. So for the meeting, it was a good ride. I rode down with Jerome, got to see a lot of that area and got to see a lot of the new stuff, the new fire department that's out there. Jerome talked to the Fire Service Board about the primary budget and, of course, the secondary budget for any of those COVID funds. That was a good conversation. Most of the committees, there was very few individuals that had anything to report for the committees. However, the Public Safety Communication Council was talking about the tower at Rockerville, and so they just kind of updated where we're at that. Above and beyond that, Dustin Willett from Emergency Management talked about the 72 flood remembrance, 49 years now. And next year will be 50 years for that. So that's going to be probably a big thing going on around here. He talked about the mitigation funds from the Schroeder fire, talked about the XL pipeline being canceled. And then one of the things that I thought was neat is they're working on an app. I might use the wrong terminology because I'm not a technical guy, but they're working on an app that it's called Survey 123. Basically, if there's a road closure or anything due to floodwaters and things of that nature, that even the public can get in there and annotate that there's a flood, this road is closed because of flooding or whatever the case may be, and it gives a good point of reference so people can kind of get it in real time. What they found during that Schroeder fire last time is they could get all the information about road closures, just getting that information to the public. And so this is to help get that information to the public a lot faster rather than in the evening through the news or other mechanisms. So I believe it's went live, but I don't know if it's being fully advertised yet because I still think they're working through some of the bits and pieces of it. But if it comes on board and it works like what I saw when I was talking to Dustin, it'll be a really neat tool for the public to know when roads are closed for emergency purposes. And then, let's see, the last one was JSC board. I went to that one. I have lots of notes, but I was writing really fast because they were talking about a lot of different things. So you may have to give me a minute to kind of decipher some of my notes. So let me go through here. I got like 3 pages of notes, so I apologize. Their max capacity is 64 beds. Their budget is based on 50 average daily population. So whenever they're talking about it, the number of beds usages is going up, and they're at approximately 40 beds in use at the time of that meeting. Just to kind of give perspective on what all the funding for that particular JSC and how it all works out, all their funds, the county puts in, where's my notes on how much the county puts in? The amount that we put into that is very, very little compared to the amount that they get from other resources, revenue sources, and things of that nature. And y'all are aware of that. But I was asking some questions about that. When you look at all those costs to the county, it really does cost $41 per person. So you might hear that it may cost $226 a day for detox, or $30 a day per person per day for safe solutions, or $303 a day per person for the crisis care. But really, whenever you factor it all out for the county side of it, the part that we are there, it's like $41. So it's a very low cost what we have invested in it, and what it does for the individuals that need those services. Let me see, because those were some of the questions that they talked about at this particular one. Quality of life unit kicked off in April. So they have a case manager now that's working with that. They're actually going and finding the little hidey holes that the homeless are at and trying to reach out to them now. So they're, instead of being reactive, they're actually working to be proactive now. So they're trying to engage with the individuals before they're doing something that's disruptive. So I think that was a pretty good idea, that starting in May that they're doing that. So I don't know what the, yes, ma'am?
So Travis, you're reporting on the CARE campus, not the JSC?
Yes, Care Campus, but I thought it was listed as I'm sorry, I may have called it the wrong
That's
thing.
okay, because I was like, okay, JSC is the juvenile justice. I was thinking, okay, maybe you were on Zoom or something when I was there, but I don't remember seeing you, so.
My mistake, I'm sorry. I may have just rolled right into it because I was talking about a lot of different things. I'm
All right.
sorry.
I just thought you might want to know that, so these guys aren't confused with the JSC.
Yes, I'm sorry, the Care Campus.
Sorry, sir.
No, good. I appreciate the clarification. So from Jim Hanson's report, their quality of life calls, 191 calls for service, 466 people. Or there was contacts with 466 individuals during that time. And this obviously saves money for the hospital and for the county. But they're also looking at reaching out to the hospital for funding, because the hospital doesn't have any funding in it now. But with the mental health piece, and I think this is a big important aspect of it, at least what they're showing right now, is that if they can receive a certain amount from the hospital, they can actually reduce the hospital's costs approximately $2 million with about a $500,000 to $700,000 investment from the hospital. So they're reaching out to make that connection to see if that will, if they're willing to help fund it as well, to help reduce the hospital's costs, and then they can also be like the mental health provider aspect in it as well. That will save them money. So that will save funds overall. So I'm interested in how that's going to play out as well. Don't know if you know, but I'm sure everybody has read the report, and this was talked about in this. There was one death in the safe beds unit. Nothing that they can find was that it was caused by anything other than maybe natural causes or whatever was going on in the individual's life, but nothing that happened there, no assaults or anything of that nature. So it was an individual that they knew very well, so it's hard on the staff because he was a high user, came through there quite a bit, but that was talked about a little bit as well. Outside of that, I think that was the bulk of the meeting, unless y'all have any questions.
Commissioner LaCroix. Give you a little leeway here. You can talk about commission reports too.
Okay, thanks.
I shut us off on that earlier, so.
Yeah, on other reports, I do have quite a bit on other reports, but as far as the committee ones, the air quality board, We had one state concern, it was with peat lanes, and that was reported, but that was, again, we had some weather that was like 90-mile-per-hour winds and so forth. But otherwise, it was kind of a struggle to get a quorum at noon, just getting everything going. But once we did get it going, we're going to end up having, we have an opening on the industrial side that's going to be coming up. So we're going to be looking for a representative on their quality board for the industrial. We did have one citizen concern that was passed through a board member, and that had to do with the Copperfield subdivision. And it was more of a question on was the city and the state conforming to the development needs for air quality. And what was discussed was pretty much any concerns with the development, this one had to do with the development that's over by Copperfield going over to Menards and so forth, that they should get reported to the city first before going to state. With that concern, I told them I would discuss with the person about the concern, the citizen concern. We did have a healthcare trust board meeting. It wasn't really a board meeting, it was more a work session just the other day. Nothing to bring back on that yet, because we'll have our meeting tomorrow to discuss some more on that. The other things I've been doing this week, I attended the Youth City Council meeting on Tuesday, because they're going to be doing their county tour here in about 15 minutes. I do want to recognize that Hannah Churchill, who she is getting recognized down in the city right now by 211 for her volunteer service, and from Black Hills Surgical Center, they're combining them together, making her a volunteer of the month. She's the one that actually kept at the city and mayor to form the city council from the teen up. So that's going to be, this is her last year on it, so that's going to be a pretty amazing thing for her. But they will be here touring at 1 o'clock, starting at the jail, then going over to the CARE campus for a presentation on mental health, and then going over to One Heart. Did have an emergency meeting with the collective healing on Friday. What that was collective healing and the police department and the community are meeting on a regular basis and looking for solutions for training PD on cultural needs and so forth, but it's actually going to be a community group that's working together. There was a video that was released of a gentleman being picked up, and it was released on media and got some very bad reviews. And so the meeting consisted of, I really don't want to go into details, but when you get a snapshot of something and promote it that way, it wasn't really what happened. Yeah. And that's what the meeting was. But out of this meeting, and even the family member of the video agreed, came some great discussions between PD and the community leaders, and we have always been talking about, we got the quality of life, but we're looking at citizens response teams to picking up intoxicated people or dealing with we're having those discussions, and they're going far with this group. And actually at this, I hate to say it, but the chief had made a commitment of maybe getting one of the vehicles and maybe donating it, taking the police department stuff off it. Once this thing all comes to fruition, using that as citizen response for intoxicated people. It's working that way, but nothing's quite happened yet. But it was good discussions.
So Lloyd, can I ask you a question? What do you mean citizen response?
Well,
so they're going to take citizens around?
No, that's the problems, Deb. I know where you're going with this. We've had this discussion for quite a few years, but this is something that they've requested they have to have training, they have to have counseling training, and those are all the things that are gonna get worked out. But taking the stickers of the police off a vehicle, a wagon, is a simple step to start, so it's not so.
So it still will have policemen, just not have,
That, these are, I'm just discussions, so I can't really say what's
well,
gonna happen.
what I've been seeing, and you're right, I've been seeing and then been hearing about it at my business, so people are going and filming the police doing things, but they're not understanding the process. One was about kicking the homeless people. Well, it's not kicking the homeless people. When you're in the military or you're a police officer, you don't kick people, but you move them with your feet. You don't use your hands and bend over because of, you might scare them, they might do something to you. And then the other one was, and I did ask the sheriff and the police, just because it was on Facebook and people were asking me. And what they do when they film is they don't get all the whole conversation and they miss out on these things. And it's kind of sad because this individual, he made up his own accord to do what happened there. It wasn't the police making him do anything. So it's good to have those conversations. It's good what you're doing, Lloyd, in a sense too, because people aren't understanding. And then when the full story gets out, unfortunately, it doesn't. And then it keeps escalating because those stories aren't. And I think more that the story needs to, once these things are put out, that the rest of the story needs to be told by either citizen response or somebody the truth, because it starts to escalate and these people start getting madder and madder and madder because they're not getting the answers. They're only seeing the Facebook first piece. So if there's anything we could do for the police department, sheriff, or just citizens in general, so we stop the anger in a lot of these issues, is that we get the full facts and we actually put that out after the fact, whether it's the sheriff's department or the police department, because again, it would stop the anger when other people knew all the information. Because when you're first hearing that, you're going, really? That isn't right. And then I'm always, okay, my first response is like, really? And my second one is, I need to call somebody and get that second story, or get both sides of the story and get the facts. So you're right, Lloyd, and how you get that done, I don't know, but I think where you're going or where your guys are trying to go is a good thing.
Yeah. Let me go back to the youth council. When I attended their meeting, I invited them to come back to our meeting and give us a presentation. So after the meeting, their executive session committee was getting together, and they were going to decide whether they wanted to come, what they were going to do. Today, I'll probably find out what the executive commission decided to do. Other thing is, you guys got an invite from I put in your box, I had Joan put in your boxes to this Thursday. The more you know, the better we do. This is from the Human Relations Commission and MOA, and they are doing a presentation on the Rapid City Police Department is going to give a presentation to Care Campus, Ohio Health, Creek Control, Health and Human Services, Rapid City Fire Department, Mobile Medic, and Camp Middaloosa. And these are all things that are going on in our community. This is not a debate, it's a presentation for each group to tell you what they're doing in our community. This was something that was come up to do, and we'll be doing more of these. So if you have the time, it's from 6 p.m. or 6:30 till when it's done. It's, like I said, it's not going to be a debate. It's a presentation from each deal, and they're actually going to do a meeting setup so everybody knows. So just a little information, something new that's happening in our community as far as getting the information out to the community. Second comment I have is, I had that Human Relations and the MOA committee meeting. I was elected vice chair. Karen Mortimer was elected chairman of the Human Relations Commission. Going forward, we're working on our bylaws and some of these learning stuff that this is happening with. So I wanted to share that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was Holly and I are going to the convention July in July. Well, and we were trying to get something lined up to go meet with Thune and so forth. Unfortunately, they're kind of all gone, but I'd called Holly and I said, why can't we meet with the staffers? They're the ones that do all the work anyhow. Right. So we were looking at a couple things to discuss with them, explain what Pennington County does, because I don't care who you are, sometimes you don't know the whole picture. Maybe we could do something along that. I told her to reach out to Gary with some of the things that you kind of thought that might be something good to present. And I think today we had something on our agenda, you know, with the raise, a grant with Box Elder we could always bring up, and the Missouri River type thing we could present if we're there. This is all preliminary, but just wanted to get it out on the table so you guys know we wouldn't be bringing nothing forward that hasn't been brought to this commission before.
Okay, couple of things. Central States Fair Board, Travis and I were there last night. Tickets and passes are on sale as of today for the fair, which starts about mid-August. And they've got it all set. It's a full lineup of activities for the fair. The Extreme Bronx will be on Thursday evening again this year. That was just approved by the PRCA. It wasn't approval to have it. We knew we was going to have it, we just didn't know what day. So that was approved for Thursday just a few days ago. So the other thing I just mentioned is we did have a meeting on people that are interested in looking into bringing Missouri River water to western South Dakota. We had an initial meeting on that a week ago that Holly and I participated in. Subcommittee was developed from that will carry that on. There'll be another meeting coming up in about a week relative to that. There's looks like there's a strong potential if we can put things together that we have some willing ears in Pierre at the legislative session to hear the proposal. So that's what we're working on. Ron Ross Connect.
Yeah, back around June 4th, I was playing phone tag with Wendell, the young man, and he indicated that he wanted to talk to me. We never really connected, but he wanted me. The issue that he was talking about had something to do with water, so maybe it was something that you're talking about, Gary.
Wendell was here for that meeting.
So, I try to connect with those guys. I met them at a CARE campus meeting and gave them my card, so I'm glad that they're reaching out. Keep that connection going. And the CARE campus, well, Travis and I both attended the last CARE campus meeting. Only thing I was going to say, and I kind of figured this was going to happen, Kevin said the last number they had on the Crisis Care Center was 5.6 million, and that there was a mezzanine or something that they're going to try to scale down just a little bit, something on the top of the roof, and try to get that number down a little bit. But anyhow, I think everybody was kind of concerned that 4.6 was going to sneak up there, and then if it's up there, then who's going to pay for it? So that's all I got to.
Thank you,
comment
Commissioner
on.
Hadcock.
Yes, I went to the JS board, Juvenile Justice, and we did elect Kevin as the chair again, and vice chair is Charlie. The main issue there was they're down. Our funding, remember when the jails and COVID and everything went down? Our federals are down. We usually kept 11, and probably lucky to, keep 8 now. So that's a lot of cash flow. So our cash flow is down at JSC, so they are very good and very tight about their money. But the compact, if you know, the compact with the other counties, sheriff's departments, theirs is going up like 2% or something like that. But in the years before, they actually got money back. So they were totally understanding, and they did vote on it, and they agreed to it. So moving forward, hopefully, we are one of the best JSC or jails for children that we have. But the other jails around the nation, or the JSC for kids, jail services for kids, is also down. So bottom line, Joe Gutierrez does an amazing job, and his staff, great team, but you already know you got to have the people to do it through the federal and the other areas. And with COVID, like you said, they didn't want to keep those jails full. They gave everybody that was new tours and stuff too, so that was pretty cool. I've done it a couple times. Weed and Pest Board was delayed till this week. And Fire Service Board, I didn't go to the one with Travis on Wednesday. Thank you, Travis, for going, but we did have a meeting last night with the Budget Committee, and we went through the primary and the secondary budgets. And the primary, we did redo the primary a little bit. We did not put in our 35,000 from the ambulance services and stuff, so it actually put us over like 3,000 on the original budget. So usually we put that in right away, and that was missed. So anyway, they should be moving forward. They do a great job. Again, a lot of volunteers. We did put in a wish list on that secondary, but thank you. We did approve that 100,000 today for the budget on the for the fire board for next year. So I'd like to thank this board because it's huge. They are looking at 4 different departments that need some fire stations, Quinn, in different areas. Again, places like over by Scenic and stuff, there is mostly federal land over there, so they don't have enough tax base to even get supplies and different things. And so they will be looking for if we have any extra money, meaning for that secondary budget for some areas that they have concerns. And again, your firemen and women cannot do their services if they don't have the right equipment. So they need some help with some of that stuff, and they will bring that forward. But there's a great bunch of people, and you guys already know Ron's been in, Travis has been in the emergency services. So great board, and thank you, Travis, again for going to the original one.
Okay, I've got a motion from Commissioner Roskinek to go into executive session for personnel and department head annual review.
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Laster. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Take a motion to go back to regular session.
So moved.
I guess, do we need that?
Yes.
Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner LaCroix. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Hadcock. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. John, come share with us some good news.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Morrow, Pennington County Human Resources. I've got a few motions today that I'd like you to consider. The first is from our dispatch center. The suggested motion would be to move Samantha Gustafson from telecommunicator at grade B21, step 7 at $18.99 an hour to dispatcher 1, grade B21, step 9 at $19.46 an hour, effective with the June 13th pay period.
So moved.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Hadcock. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, the second suggested motion is to move Samantha Simon from telecommunicator grade B21 step 7 at $18.99 per hour to dispatcher 1 grade B21 step 9 at $19.46 per hour, also effective with the pay period beginning June 13th, 2021.
Is there a motion? Got a motion from Commissioner Roskinek. Second? Is there a second? Second. And a second from Commissioner LaCroix. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The third recommended motion is to move Auditor Cindy Moeller to an annualized pay rate of $91,582.80, effective with the June 13th pay period, 2021.
So moved.
I've got a motion
Second.
by Commissioner Hadcock, second by Commissioner LaCroix. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Gonna have to change the budget. Just kidding.
Move to adjourn.
I've got a motion to
Second.
adjourn
Second.
and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Only if I get a conky all in the head, I'll put it out.